It's supposed to feel.
Yo, 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 welcome to NS9LIVE. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we got Tyler, we got Jim, we got a special guest. We got Freddie Prinze Jr. on the show.
Nah, man, I feel like I've been talking about, I was talking to some of the beat writers about Summer Catch, some underrated baseball movie. And they got that other dude from Scooby-Doo too. So that movie's like Scooby-Doo canon.
I will say Summer Catch is definitely an underrated baseball movie.
Underrated.
I'll agree with you there.
That dude with like the flaming glove, like I grew up like wanting that glove so bad.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's not bad.
Well, anyways, for the people that don't know or want to know, it actually is not Freddie Prinze Jr. It's someone who's way more relevant right now these days. It's Justice delos Santos from LB.com. What is up, Justice? Thanks for coming on the show, actually, also.
Nothing much going on. Appreciate y'all for having me. I was waiting on the invite, and I was like, when I saw y'all didn't have a guest for that, I was like, let me shoot my shot real quick. I've been waiting. I'm happy to make it happen. I'm glad to make it happen.
Yeah, we were looking for somebody that was in like the Pittsburgh area, enjoying this fine winter.
Well, okay, I will say this. So I'm back in California, but it's actually hella funny. So about 20 minutes from my hometown is a city called Pittsburgh. It's actually like right next to the city where Najee used to play, Antioch. But it's spelled without an H. And so when I was moving across the country and I told like all my family and my friends, I was like, yeah, I'm moving to Pittsburgh. Some of them were like, why are you making such a big deal out of this? You're moving like 20 minutes away. I was like, nah, I'm moving across the country. And fun fact, Najee actually went to my high school for a year. So a lot of people that like I know like grew up with him. And there's actually a funny story.
So you like to tell a story about how he slept on the floor in college because he was used to being homeless, or is that just an NFL thing where they lie?
I don't know him like that. I don't know him personally, but I do know that it's actually funny. So the story, I could tell y'all the story of like how he ended up at Antioch High School as opposed to mine. And that's a good and unrelated. That's a rabbit hole we can go down.
Oh, we go down rabbit holes.
So
we go down a lot of rabbit holes.
So I went to a high school called Hercules High School.
Great
Very
name.
small high school, predominantly Filipino, as you can tell by seeing me. And Najee, again, this is just the story as I've been told it, but Najee was there as a freshman. And his freshman year, again, this is just as the story's been told to me. This was not going to hold up in a court of law. But as it was told to me, he was not starting immediately on varsity as a freshman. And when you kind of see who Najee Harris is now, when you saw who he was in high school and college, you're like, who could have possibly been like preventing Najee Harris from like starting immediately as a freshman, especially at a really small high school like mine? Like we're not like pumping out like D1 athletes like that. Well, the guys that were in front of him, both on the offense and the defensive side, would compose like the fastest. It was either that year, or, like for a period of time, like the fastest 4x4 in Northern California, like capital D like dudes. And so at the time, you know, it did kind of make a little bit of sense. In retrospect, not so much. And now I guess I have to be the bird. I guess we're kind of creating like a Hercules, California to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania pipeline between me and Najee. So I guess there's that.
It's basically modern day.
I actually know some fools that went to modern day. They got stories too.
Like, Justice, I do have a quick question for you, not to take us down a real deep rabbit hole. Did you cover high school football at all in your life?
I covered a lot of high school football.
What do you think about high school football in general?
In what manner? In what sense?
So we might have somebody on here that makes fun of me because I enjoy some high school football. I find it fun.
High school, I will say, so a lot of like the lens through which I look at high school football is like the lens of like covering it. It is. And, being out in the Bay, like, you kind of, like, I've been to, like, a lot of different high schools, covered, like, a lot of different games. Like, there's like the Bruce in San Francisco, which is at the old stadium that the 49ers used to play at. I've covered games in McClymonds in like East Oakland, where I think is it Marcus Peters? Is that his dad? Is that whoever's in the NFL with like the last name Peters, like his dad coaches there. And so I've been able to, I went to cover a game like Jared Goff's old high school high school. So from that perspective of like being in a bunch of different places and kind of seeing like the different environments and like how meaningful it can get. And also there's also the element of De La Salle. De La Salle's like 15 minutes for me, although they haven't been doing great over the last like year and change, side note. But I personally enjoy the environment. And I think like if there's like any prospective writers in here that like want to do beat writing as a whole, I would say like cover high school football, because it's fun, a lot. It's super hands-on. Like you got to keep your own stats. You got like, there's no PR person that's like pulling the head coach for you, the star athlete. You got to get it out the mud, so to say. So it's a very enjoyable experience, especially when you start getting towards like those state playoff games where like teams come up from like California, like from Southern California to Northern California. So it's a fun experience. I don't knock it.
There's that sense of community you got there. And then we got certain people with like gray beards that want to just knock it and go to New Orleans for fun, for work, and want to hate on people like me that go watch high school football games while they go yell at college kids at Louisville that are completely irrelevant.
I'm just saying it's a
drink.
I'm not even going to comment on this other than like if you go to a high school football game and you're an adult and you don't have like a kid either on the team or like some sort of family member, you're a dork. You are a dork.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
What if you coach those kids in other sports?
I think that's valid. I mean, like, there's a relationship there.
Exactly.
I feel like that's a little more valid.
If you coach the kids in other sports, you should just say, "Don't play football. Just focus on this on the sport."
You don't get it. You
need them to specialize.
Kids, don't take Jim's advice.
You know
play all the sports.
Yeah, you know what it all comes down to? Jim not getting it, just like he doesn't get baseball.
Are these allegations of not knowing ball? Hashtag no more ball. Watch more ball.
Jeez.
Sorry, I kind of just like stole the show there for a minute, but go ahead, Donardo.
I'm gonna be honest. Tyler was waiting for that to talk some high school football, so I'm glad we got it out of the way.
I
lost
didn't
all the viewers.
We're good.
Damn, Ethan taking some major shots there.
Yeah, Ethan's right. I mean, Ethan's right as he normally is. You know, he corrects us when we're wrong, and you're wrong in this case, Tyler.
That's fine. You guys can think what you want, but whatever. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. We got other rabbit holes to go down tonight.
Yeah. So speaking of, it's a Pirates podcast. I guess let's get maybe into the news a little bit here because it is kind of relevant. It's kind of recent. We just had the 40-man shakeup to a degree yesterday, right? Some guys got protected. Some guys got purged. We have a non-tender deadline coming up. So I guess maybe let's get into like the Rule 5. I know we previewed it with Ethan, as Jim brought him up just recently. We previewed the Rule 5 with Ethan. We made our picks, who we thought would get protected. I mean, Endy and Burrows are pretty much a lock. After that, we were all over the place. But Endy, it's Burrows. I guess there were some notables that weren't protected that people were talking about, like with Sable, with Nunez. I guess let's kind of, and Gorski, like let's maybe talk about this Rule 5. What do we feel about it right now? Because it was a talk of the day yesterday.
I'll start. Yeah, obviously Burrows and Endy were the clear-cut, obvious choices there. But I mean, last week when we went over this list, we pretty much decided as a group that Selby and Triolo were not going to be added. No, we did. Go back and listen to the podcast, Tyler. Like we decided that.
Can y'all refresh me on y'all 3 or your 4? Wasn't it? It was for y'all. It was Endy, Burrows.
So we had Endy, Burrows, and then we had
Nunez.
Dario Lopez and
Yes.
Malcolm Nunez. That was
Yes.
that was the four.
I'm pretty sure I said Triolo was my pick.
No, I don't
Well,
think you did.
we were very
Let's
disorganized.
go around the
in all
room.
over the place.
Let's go around the room. Let's get a little refresher going. Let's go person by person.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to who y'all had in terms of like the 40-man protection.
Like Endy and Burrows were the obvious ones.
And I think we collectively kind of came together and agreed with. We went with after that. What did I just
Nunez.
say? Oh yeah, Nunez.
But the reason we went with Nunez wasn't necessarily because we thought he like deserved protection. It was more
The Ben Charrington glasses.
you know, Ben Charrington went out and got this guy, so we felt he would be added just to make sure that he was protected. So that was kind of our thoughts there. And then Lopez really is just a matter of just development. Like I don't think Dario Lopez is going to get picked, but if he does, totally messes with your development as a prospect. And I think he has probably a pretty good shot of, not a pretty good shot, but out of everyone left off of the 40-man, Dario Lopez has the highest ceiling. I think most people would agree with that. I mean, you could argue a few others, but he's also the farthest away from the majors of all those notable people who were left off. But no, I think that was our surprise. Triolo, I think, caught us a little off guard, other than Tyler, maybe.
Yeah. Other than thank you. That's all I needed.
And it's not that like we talked about him, but I was not expecting them to add a corner infielder who really can't hit that great. But here we are, and we'll see how it goes.
I just kind of thought that the glove, and he has hit well. The glove's major league caliber at this point. The bat has played pretty well at this point. Thought he's probably the most likely of the rest of the best to get picked. So kind of roll with him.
I think the interesting thing about Triolo, and this is kind of jumping ahead a little bit to the non-tender guys, is if you look at the current, like the infielders that are currently on the 40-man roster, like excluding, this is kind of a Newman-centric point, everybody but G-Man Choi can play shortstop. Like all of them. Like even Hayes can go over there. Like, and obviously, like I'm not expecting like a Peguero type to be on the opening day roster, but that's kind of another point looking ahead is pretty much every single guy there can play shortstop, and a good majority of them can play second base too. But that's kind of jumping ahead a little bit. I will say I was simultaneously surprised and not surprised with Selby in particular. I know that his stuff is like, he's got the electric stuff, and particularly when it comes with pitchers, like those are kind of the guys that, you know, maybe a team will kind of come out of nowhere and say, we're going to take a shot on this guy. Because the big thing to remember with the Rule 5 and all that is that these guys have to get added to the 26-man roster, and they have to stay there for the entirety of the season. So it makes the exclusions of guys like Sable, like Nunez, like Gorski a little less shocking, because you have to think, like, would a team want to take them in their current state for the 2023 opening day roster? And for all three of those guys, like, my logic was, I think that they could potentially be on the 2023 team. I don't think that that date would be opening day. But when you start factoring in the relievers, that's when it's kind of like, okay, kind of get him in with the pitching group. And I guess a guy like Luis Ortiz is kind of a good example of that, where, you know, he's able to come up with very minimal major league experience, or just experience above AA and in general. And he's able to go out there and have these flashes. Now, is Luis Ortiz a complete project? No, but there's that opportunity to, you know, it's a lot easier, not easier, but in terms of making those big jumps, it's a lot easier for pitchers to do that than hitters. So when those guys got Sable, Gorski, Nunez, when they got excluded, it was a little shocking, but then you kind of remember, like, okay, would any team want them like right now? Then it gets a little less shocking. But in that same vein, though, I would not be surprised at all if a team, you know, wants to take a shot on a guy like Sable, or wants to take a shot. I think Sable, of that group, though, Sable's probably the one of like the most worthy of taking a shot. But, you know, Nunez, Gorski a little more, and then like a guy like Lopez, where he's kind of so far off. Like, I don't think a team would want to, you know, take that shot yet.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get caught up in the whole Rule 5 thing. It's like, oh my God, like I can't believe you're exposing these. And it's like every team has these guys already. Like they're protecting, they're wondering if they're going to protect their Sable or not. And whether they do or not, it's like, do they want to add another Sable to their Sable to go in this year? You know what I mean? So it's like these guys, like, I mean, I understand like there's their prospects, right? And a lot of them had good seasons for the most part. You're looking like this could be a part of the Pirates, future, whatever. But they're not really like ready yet. They're kind of they're just guys. Are you really going to be concerned if this roster doesn't have a Blake Sable in 2 years? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, none of these other guys that we're talking about are really, even if you're looking at the Pirates' top prospects list, we're not talking about top 20 or top 25 prospects in the Pirates organization, right? Dario Lopez being the exception, but again, he is pretty far off. I don't know. I'm still a little worried, like a team like the Reds or like the A's, who have absolutely nothing to play for next year, could take someone like Lopez. But yeah, like the other guys, I'm not too concerned if anybody really takes them. I mean, it's cool to keep them around, but not important.
Of the guys who weren't protected, I think the one that's probably even more than Sable that I could just not be shocked at all if he's taken is Tanaj Thomas. Because kind of going back to the point of, it's a lot easier, again, quote unquote, easier to have someone make that leap from a AA to the majors as a pitcher than they are as a hitter. And, Tanaj Thomas had a great season. He kind of proved what he would be able to do in that bullpen role. And there might be some team that's looking at him and saying, hey, like, it's worth taking a shot on this guy and, seeing what we can do with him once he gets with our pitching group. So I think if there was a scenario where Tanaj Thomas gets taken, I would not be surprised at all. But that's kind of the nature of the Rule 5 when it comes to pitching in particular.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. But I think we all kind of get bent out of shape over the Rule 5 in general. And in all reality, it's just kind of irrelevant in the whole grand scheme of things. I think there's been maybe 2 All-Stars in the last maybe 3-4 years to come out of the Rule 5 draft. And really, it's the only thing as Jim's dog is just clicking around.
I need to cut his toenails.
Like, it's the only thing at this point in the year to really care about. But we really do. We get bent out of shape over it.
That's the only thing that is until the non-tender deadline. How you like that for a transition?
We do. Non-tender deadline coming up. But just to kind of reiterate what Tyler said, I mean, we're talking about a Rule 5 draft that really hasn't produced anyone significant in a long time.
And if it does, it's
Akil Baddoo probably being the most recent one, but then you look at this year and he was nowhere near the guy that he was last year. So
I mean, I think it's like Nestor Cortez and another guy I can't remember. The guy that went to the Blue Jays.
But those also weren't like productive Rule 5 picks.
I'm just saying, like, all-star Rule 5 picks.
Yeah. And what I was going to add too is like, so as Pirates fans, like putting your hat and think about all the Rule 5 guys the Pirates have selected in like the past decade that we've all been excited about. Like, think about how many oh my God, like you got this, like, oh my God, look at this guy, like all the talent. Where are they now? Where's Jose Soriano right now?
Yeah, Soriano.
Yeah, Angels actually just protected him. I tweeted out the other day. But yeah, it's like all the guys that you're excited for on the other end, where are they? So like, and that's where we're getting at. Like in the grand scheme of thing, this is pretty much not worthy of us even talking about right now. But here we are because it is the middle of November, and on top of that, it's the Pittsburgh Pirates. So this is probably the last transactional talk, this week that we'll talk about until like February.
Also, we've all been burned by Jose Bautista, so we're gonna live by that.
But like, you even think
these new kids don't even know who Jose Bautista is.
But like, Bautista got returned back to the Pirates.
Yeah, I know.
So like, we didn't even lose him in the Rule 5.
But if you listen to certain people, they're gonna keep going back to that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could go all the way back to Clemente if you wanted to.
Touche.
Yeah.
Great job, Mickey Branch.
All right, so non-tender deadline, right? So that's kind of the next thing coming up. 2 days away.
So Friday,
Yeah.
8 o'clock Eastern.
PM or AM?
I would hope PM.
Well,
Better wake up at
it's
5 in the morning.
it's about
5 in the
midnight
morning
if
in
you're
a state of
the
shock.
Pirates.
So if you're the Pirates, that means we'll probably find out like mid-Saturday afternoon or so. But no, I think if we're looking at the roster, I think we talk about Kevin Newman. I'm not in favor of Kevin Newman being non-tendered, but then when you're looking at relievers, you're probably talking about Underwood, Stevenson as the options there. I don't really think anyone else is too much in danger other than those three, unless we can think of another kind of surprise name. But I think those are the three to kind of talk about.
So
Well, I'll tell you what, we got a guest on here who's seen the Pirates every single day. So let's talk to him.
Yeah.
Justice, what do you think?
Well, actually, this is just a side note that I want to put out into the universe. Robert Stevenson isn't only just half Filipino and half white like me. He went to like a high school like 10 minutes from me. And so when we were doing like our exit interviews, I joke with him. I was like, I'll probably see you in the off season. Like we're probably gonna go to the same coffee shop. Side note. But just as a primer, the 6 arbitration eligible guys that the Pirates have coming into Friday: Mitch Keller, JT Brubaker, Dwayne Underwood Jr., Robert Stevenson, Kevin Newman, and Miguel Andujar. And this is actually something like a topic that I'm going to be talking about in my newsletter. So go peep that tomorrow. But among I guess we can kind of go like player by player, because there's like with some guys, it's a little murkier. And we can kind of start with Newman because he's kind of of all those guys, kind of the biggest guy in terms of, candidate because of just their depth of middle infielders. And I guess the question that the Pirates are going to have to answer is, as he's heading into his second year of arbitration, is this someone that you would potentially non-tender and just really lean into the youth movement, considering all the infield depth you have, especially with a guy like Triolo that's also been added into the mix? Or do you kind of want to bring him back and just kind of have him as that, sturdy rock that can, slide in as shortstop, slide in at second base? Because at the end of the day, these guys, Ji Hwan Bae, Diego Castillo, these guys are still super young as well. And you don't want to, in a situation where they're going through their struggles and you got to just keep throwing them out there as they're kind of drowning, so to say. That's just hypothetical. But it is interesting because, I can see that going either way. I think if I had to pick one or the other, it does make sense to non-tender and just like really lean into the brevity of middle infielders that they have, but we'll kind of see either way.
So to start here about Kevin Newman, I think we've all kind of jumped aboard the tender Kevin Newman a contract. And I kind of brought up last week that one of the reasons I really would kind of jump on board of that is he might be that right-handed side of that platoon with the Choi addition. He's a guy that can play everywhere. And you mentioned him being the rock. They do need a veteran presence. He really did improve this year. He's not a bad baseball player, like we have talked about before plenty of times. We have called him a very bad baseball player. He's probably not that. I'm okay with what Kevin Newman is, and he's a guy that I'm fully aboard keeping on this team.
I guess.
Yeah, I think my reason. Go ahead, Justice.
Yeah, I think the question just kind of becomes like, would you, for a guy that's entering his second year of arbitration and he made 1.5 million last year, he's probably going to make upwards of 2 million this year, whether that's 2 or 3. I'm not the projection guy there, but it's kind of that question as well as, would the Pirates, for a guy entering his second year of arbitration, have him be that guy that's kind of coming off the bench, especially with this, this stockpile of young guys that are just right over here. So again, it's something I could see honestly going either way. And there's arguments on both sides that make a lot of sense.
Yeah, listen, I'm leaning towards tendering him a contract. And my reason really was, like you mentioned earlier, Justice, that, a lot of these guys on this infield are capable of playing shortstop. And while I agree with that, I wouldn't really say they're capable of playing it well. I mean, you can kind of go down the list here. G1 Bay, I don't think is capable of playing shortstop well for like an extended period of time. I don't think Diego Castillo is. Castro showed us that, while he's athletic and can do some flashy things out there, he's also not really consistent at the position. Hayes, they're just not going to put him there. Hoy Park, I don't know why he's still on the 40-man to begin with. Peguero, not going to be on the team next year. Triolo could do it if he needs to, but like he's also not going to be on the opening day roster. But I think out of everybody, just to kind of give O'Neal Cruz some days off here and there and to get some pretty consistent, solid defensive play out of the shortstop position, which I like O'Neal Cruz as shortstop, but Kevin Newman is more consistent at the position than really anybody else at the roster. And I don't know. I feel like they're gonna keep him around just for being able to play him there, 30 or 40 times next year while they let O'Neal Cruz DH, once or twice a week. That's my opinion. And I think out of every guy that, you could potentially slide into that role, I don't think any of them can even hit as well as Kevin Newman. So I think Kevin Newman is just the best option. And I'm tired of not being good. Like, I want to actually be a decent baseball team next year. I don't know if the Pirates are going to be a decent baseball team or not yet next year, but I would feel much more comfortable knowing that it's Kevin Newman getting 40 starts at shortstop as opposed to Diego Castillo or G1 Bay or Hoy Park. That's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah. So I'm the one who's on the other side of this. And like I said, like I'm kind of like with you though, Justice. I'm not going to get upset if he's tendered or not tendered. I don't think it's that divisive. It kind of is what it is, but I just feel like with this team and this roster, especially for the same reason you're talking about, there's a lot of middle infielders. There's a lot that could be on the team next year, and they're going to want to get experience and plate appearances and such. And it's like, so Kevin Newman takes away from that. So like with all the things that Jim's saying, I agree with. Kevin Newman is good defensively. Now, I might still be saying, listen, I'm not going to get fooled by Kevin Newman once again, either with his bat. But regardless, he did turn it around last year. He did have a better season offensively as well, which is why we've been talking about at this point in time. But I just feel like you have Bay, you have Castro, you have Cruz. Yes, Castillo. Yes, guys are coming up. Like Kevin Newman to me for a team that has a premium at roster spots is just – I don't think it's worth tendering him. Like for the reasons you want to have as veteran presence and such, I think that comes at another position. Don't let it be at a shortstop where you have 5 guys be rostered that can play all those positions. Non-tendered Kevin Newman, go get that corner outfielder you need, or go get. We'll transition to this later as well, as you mentioned before the show. Go get a freaking catcher that's caught MLB pitchers before in his life. Like do something. Like go get that person that you need in a Kevin Newman, but get it in another position, because all these other guys that are on this roster need these plate appearances, and that's the position they play in. Now, when Tyler brought up the platooning with Choi, that to me shifted a little bit. If that's the Pirates' plan, then I'm more on board with Kevin Newman. But still, you're doing the same thing you did last year, playing a guy at first base who's never played there before. Like, here's the idea: just get a first baseman to platoon with Choi and not Kevin Newman.
When we were in Philadelphia, when the Pirates were in Philadelphia, that was when Kevin Newman was taking the grounders at first base, and I think that was the only time they did it the year. And I don't think that's going to be a thing. I remember Rodolfo Castro, I think when he was with Indianapolis, was very briefly doing that as well. But again, these are not primary first basemen.
Well,
right.
This is the Pirates team. Josh Van Meter played.
The Pirates basically went the entire year last year without a first baseman. So
the number 601, there's, again, according to Baseball Reference, there's 601 OPS combined by first baseman. That's a number that I wrote down a lot of times during the off season, and I think that at the bare minimum with Choi, that just stands to get better. This, like, we're kind of diving into first base now, but the bare minimum that kind of stands to get better. But yeah, just kind of to wrap up on Newman, again, I can kind of see it going either way. There's logic as to why. Speaking of veteran presence, I didn't tweet this out, but there was something that I had noted that kind of caught me by surprise. And well, maybe not that surprising, but Ji-Man Choi is the only 30-year-old on this team right now. The only one. And so that doesn't get as surprising when you consider, like, oh yeah, like Banuelos was DFA'd and, you know, Perez is no longer the 60-man, but you know, that was just very interesting to me. I think I would imagine that's going to change in a couple weeks, but it's an interesting note for right now.
I also think Choi has the most service time of anyone on the team as well.
Yep.
I want to say. So
I want most service time, one of 3 guys that's been to the playoffs. Ooh, can you guys guess the other 2? I don't think it should be that hard to guess the other 2.
Those 2 have been in the playoffs.
The other 2 guys on the
Andujar.
Andujar.
Oh, Bryce Wilson.
Yeah.
I would do Clayton Kershaw in the 2020 playoffs, and obviously the only one of that bunch who has been to the World Series too. So that's kind of just speaks to that element of veteran presence. But yeah, Newman, if he gets non-tendered, I won't be surprised. If they do tender him a contract, I won't be surprised. And you kind of just see where they go from there.
I think it will show a lot. I mean, it'll show a lot. That decision will show a lot as far as like what their plans are for next year with with playing time and such. It also, I think, speaks a lot to Ji-Won Bae. So, I mean, he was really impressive those last 10 games or so that he got called up in. And, you know, you could see him kind of just sliding into that role that they had carved out for Newman. So, but I could also see them rolling with Bae in as an outfielder next year too. I mean, there's a lot of options for him. But I would imagine they're going to put him in the lineup as often as they can, unless they're planning on adding some people.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's where I'm at. You know, so I feel like Bay's going to be the center fielder. He's going to be the second baseman. He's going to be the shortstop. Like, that's his way of finding his bat into the lineup and get that development. So again, if you have a Newman there, that takes away at bats from Bay, and is that really productive?
I'm very curious as to watch more of Bae in the outfield, because it was very limited in the time that he was up there. When we were in St. Louis, he had that one ball. It was actually funny. It was like one inning, he's like losing a ball in lights, and then the next inning, he's making that like running catch at the warning track. And so I'm really curious to see how that translates. But and I guess the outfield, like, that's another subject for another day. But yeah, we'll, again, going back to Newman, we'll kind of see.
But going back to Newman, I think it really does come back for him if he can play first base at a capable level, and if he can play the corners. And it's almost the same with Bae. If he can slide into that center field role a little more often, because Brian Reynolds is getting a little older. The defensive numbers weren't great there. They probably do need to find a center fielder that can defend there at a high level. And if you really want to build around Brian Reynolds, you probably need to find a capable center fielder and save those old legs a little bit.
Like, Tyler,
Are we
just that conditioned right now because it's the Pirates? I mean,
yes.
We're now expanding. Like, we're talking about Kevin Newman as a career ISO of a 0.96 playing the corners. Like, we got to do better, guys.
Obviously. But if he wants to stay on the team as a utility guy, I'll take him in the quarters over Diego Castillo not being able to see the damn ball.
We gotta
agreed.
We gotta clip that to "Dreams and Nightmares" by Meek Mill.
Good Lord. Diego Castillo's falling over himself out there. I'll take Kevin Newman at this point.
How about just getting one that actually has played a corner before in his life?
We don't get that option.
We got to do better.
Fans.
That's what I'm getting at.
So moving on. So moving on, the other names you brought up, like Mitch Keller, obviously going to be tendered a contract. JT Brubaker, obviously going to be tendered a contract. I don't think there's any surprises there. That brings us to Stevenson and Underwood. I think they pick one. That would be my guess. I would probably tender both if it were me, but I think they pick one, and I have a feeling just based off of how we finish the year, it'll be Stevenson. But I'd like to kind of hear your thoughts on that too.
I think I definitely agree with the notion that Stevenson would probably be tendered. And to dive into those numbers a little bit, I don't have them in front of me, but I think off top he had like a low 3 ERA. His FIP was in the mid 2s. I think
3.38, 2.81. Yeah.
I think it's 13 and a third innings, 18 strikeouts to just 1 walk. And that was something that like really impressed me too, in terms of just, I think there was also an element of him just getting out of Colorado, and you never know like what that can do for a pitcher. I remember when I was doing my dive into him, like once he was acquired, this is going to be some real deep dive stuff. So in 2019, that was his best season to date with the Reds. His slider had a run value of -17. And for those who are unfamiliar with run value, it's like golf. The lower, the better. And when you look at where he ranked in his slider in run value, you look at the guys above him, and it's like Verlander, Stroman, and like here's just and it's from my understanding, it's a cumulative stat. So for him to be up here like among these premier stars, you're like, there's something there. And then you throw it, and he was able to flash that during his time with the Pirates. And then you throw in the fact that he has at its foundation a fastball that can touch 100. Admittedly, it's been hit pretty hard, but it's one of those pitches where you look at guys like Keller and Brubaker, for example, how they were able to kind of tweak their stuff a little bit. If there's a tweak to be made there with that 4-seam fastball, maybe kind of make it more into a sinker, 2-seam, something of that nature. The foundation of having like a pitch that can hit 100, that's just super intriguing to me. And you couple that with what he was able to do, you kind of look at that like it makes almost too much sense for him to not be on this roster next season, especially considering they're trying to, supply that bullpen. They're trying to fill up that bullpen rather.
I think if you give me Underwood versus Stevenson, it's not a question. The one guy has really good stuff. The other guy performed well enough in the bullpen. And unfortunately, the Pirates did have to use him quite a bit. But I think that timeline's up for him. Stevenson does show some stuff, as Justice said, that looks like he could be a, if not middle reliever. He has the stuff to be a high-end reliever. Will it work out? Who knows? But he's a guy that deserves to be in this bullpen full of guys that probably don't.
Now, I will say this about Underwood. Outside of David Bednar, lowest FIP on the team last year among people who threw over 50 innings. So, like the ERA, obviously not ideal. Like you mentioned, he did get used quite a bit. He was hurt, for a portion of the year. But when he was healthy, he was used quite often, used in that multi-inning role. He always kind of seemed like that guy where, like, when we talked about it a lot, where, first inning would go great. You'd send him out for inning number 2 and things would fall apart. So, you almost want to see, like, what could Dwayne Underwood Jr. be like on a team that has a good bullpen? Because, like, when you're not maybe asked to do as much as he was asked to do last year, could he be better? That's kind of where I stand with him. Now, fact of the matter is, the Pirates didn't have a good bullpen last year. I can't imagine it gets worse next year. So it can really only get better. I would be fine with bringing both back. I just don't think they do it. So I think that's why he's kind of the odd man out. But I think he kind of just got a bad rap because he got used a lot when he was healthy, and I don't think he was necessarily used in the best way that can showcase his talents.
That's where I'm at. I mean, I feel like I'm the Underwood truther over here, to as much of a truther you could be. It's not like I'm saying he's good and he deserves it because he's this good, but like I feel Underwood's the safe pick and Stevenson's the upside pick. But like if you tender Underwood and you get on this team next year, I've been talking about time and time again. Like, I feel he's overused and he gets more hate than he deserves. No, he's not a great bullpen guy. Like, he's not a great pitcher, but he's a good one. And just like Jim was saying, like, he belongs in a bullpen in Major League Baseball. And if he's used more properly, I think he'd be more effective, and fans can look at him and say he's not this terrible. So, like, I think he's safe. He's going to provide innings for this team. Honestly, quality innings. They could be even more quality if there are less innings, right? Less usage. But I feel like he's a good pitcher. But Stevenson presents that intrigue, that upside. You know, Underwood's right here. He's going to give you stability. But Stevenson could give you a nice trade chip at the deadline, is basically what I'm getting at. And, you know, with that said, I wouldn't mind both of them either. I don't have an answer for this. I'm either or, whichever they protect, I'm okay with. I guess it just depends on, like, to me, my eyes, it's where they want to go. They want to go safe and say, Underwood, you're an MLB pitcher, let's go with it, or just take a little bit of risk and say, Stevenson, let's get the upside. It's like in fantasy football, you know, like if you have a guy's a bunch of bye weeks, right? Do you get the safe guy that's going to give you the 7 points, or do you get the boom and bust guy that might give you 0 but might go off for 20? Like, that's what Stevenson is. Like, he might go off for 20. I'll plug him in, roll the dice.
I don't draft all-stars in my fantasy league, so I don't know if I'm the person to consult about that. I drafted Cade Cunningham 1-1 in my fantasy league.
Oh, geez.
my fantasy team name is the Rod Strickland All-Stars. If you know, you know. I think one of the points, kind of in the opposite, you know, kind of playing both sides of the Underwood coin. Like, I do agree that, you know, because of how ravaged the bullpen, you know, you think of some of the guys that were on the injured list, Bednar, Holderman, delos Santos, no relation. You kind of look at the accumulation of these guys and it's like, yeah, like, it's not an ideal situation, but we need someone that's capable to give us innings, or at least to have somewhat of a presence there. The two numbers that kind of jump out to me with Underwood, kind of on the opposite side of that spectrum, is a career high in walks per 9 innings. And we can, you know, wonder whether that was a product of overusage or not. That being said, in like 2021, I think he threw 72 innings. This year is 59. And, it's not just a matter of innings, it's when they were used. The other number that is, I guess it's two numbers, is that he only allowed 1 home run, and that his home run to fly ball rate was like 2.1%. In his career coming into that season, it's like 16%. That's not gonna hold. That's an outlier of all outliers. And so I think that was partially what contributed to such, like, I think his FIP being like 2.92, but his xFIP being like 3.91. And so when you kind of look at that too, you're thinking, again, with the guy going into arbitration, with the guy that's eligible to receive a significant raise, it's that question of, you know, would we want to roll the dice with this guy, bring him back for another year, have him, you know, potentially provide that stability, or kind of on the heels of adding a guy like Selby to the 40-man roster, could we potentially go internal? Now, of course, that doesn't mean because they add Selby that necessarily means they need to non-tender Underwood, but just kind of a thought experiment there. And it's also worth remembering that as of right now, they don't have a left-hander on the 40-man roster. And so there's also that question of, would it make a lot more sense to non-tender Underwood and allocate those funds in order to get a lefty on the roster? Because I think Banuelos was the only one, or one of the only ones before, well, Stout was, and he was DFA'd as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of in the similar vein of the two catchers only having 7 combined major league games. Like, that's something that's the roster, the pitching depth is not going to look like that come opening day. And that's kind of a way you can go about addressing it right now. So again, another kind of question of, like, how do you kind of go about that? Do you bring him back and get a lefty in addition and then have to take someone off the 40-man, or do you cut your ties right there and just go for someone else entirely?
To make a note of things, I just tried to, like, warm up my left arm because I'm left-handed. It cracked. I'm old. But just to bring back to Dwayne Underwood Jr., it's not a Dwayne Underwood Jr. problem. It's more of a bullpen problem. He's really not a bad pitcher. He's just a product of the environment where we all want to blame him. And unfortunately, he is very replaceable, and the Pirates used him as poorly as he could be used as a Pirate. So we're at the point now where he can be fixed by a Selby type of character or literally anything else you can bring in.
It's kind of interesting now that I'm thinking about it, that their position players are just so left-handed and their pitching staff is now like entirely right-handed. I think that
we've been trending that way for a while.
Let's see if we can get O'Neill on the mound, I guess. Let's get the two-way hype going.
Well, you can't even.
I wouldn't take that seriously.
Love to see that.
I need to say that. I need that to be
well. O'Neill throws right-handed.
Oh yeah,
yeah. No, I feel like though, just as an organization, we haven't really produced too much in the terms of left-handed pitching talent internally. So I mean, Stephen Brault, the last one I can really think of. Like everybody else, Tyler Anderson they brought in for that 1 year.
Quintana.
So like the lefties that they've had in their rotation recently have been external signings, and you even look right now in the minors, and like Solomito is like, I mean, I guess there's a few others, but like there's not a whole lot there on the left hand side. It is kind of just, I mean, I'm sure it's just a weird coincidence. So.
Justin Wilson.
So the Pirates, their minor league reliever of the year, Tyler Samaniego, he's a lefty, and he's someone that I could see being in the. He wasn't a Rule 5 eligible guy. I think 2021 was his first season, but he's someone that I could see if things go well to start 2023 bringing the mix. But kind of now that I'm bringing up Samaniego, I wanted to share a story that Kyron Madison shared with me. Samaniego was like called into like this game in the 9th inning. I think the bases were loaded, or like it was a 1-run game, 2-run game, something like that. It was a close game. Kyron comes out, hands him the ball, and as the way that he relayed this story to me is that Samaniego looked right past him, and I think the quote was, "He looked into my soul." So he's a intense dude from that.
Love him already.
So
yeah.
Just to kind of put that on the radar in terms of a guy that could potentially be in the left-handed mix, not necessarily for opening day, but sometime in 2023.
So what's crazy with Samaniego is like he was nowhere near my radar until he won that award, and I was like, who the hell even is this guy? But yeah, I mean, really good numbers in Greensboro this year, which is impressive because just the environment that's in. When he got bumped up to Altoona, the strikeouts took a big hit, but the walk rate seems fine. Yeah, I guess we'll start paying attention to him there. But yeah, I just quickly looked at just the organizational depth chart. There's not a single left-handed starting pitcher in above high A ball other than Trey McGow. It's the only one. So just not. It's just. I mean, I'm sure it's just a weird coincidence, but not a whole lot there.
That's odd coincidence indeed.
It does feel like
they've
been trending in that direction for a while, though.
Yeah.
So that pretty much wrap up our non-tenders then?
I think so. Did we come up with the conclusion?
Collectively, we making a decision here then?
We got Andujar.
Oh, yeah.
I think
so.
Andujar is I think of all of these guys, he's like the trickiest one.
I'm keeping Kevin Newman over Andujar. That's not a question to me. If I am forced between one or the other, it's not a question. One guy has some bat-to-ball skills. The other guy has kind of stunk his entire career.
Let's just, first thing out here, let's lay this out. We're not the GMs, though. Ben Cherington is. And Ben Cherington brought him in the very last week of MLB season. So, to me, it seems like he's getting tendered a contract, right? Just in Cherington's eyes. I mean, why you make that move? We talked about when he came over, but for all the fans, nothing that he does right now should change our opinion on Andujar for these next 8 games. So that should be the same for the GM. So why are you going to bring him on if you weren't considering the tender a contract to begin with? So just for that sake, are we all agreeing that he's tendered a contract, even though we played
Yes.
this game with Nunez and he wasn't.
Well, yeah. So my logic there is you don't claim Andujar unless you're planning on having him next year because
Right.
yeah, 8 games, whether he's really good, really bad, or anything in between, isn't a sample size that's going to give you enough data to be like, this is who Miguel Andujar is. So I don't think the claim's made unless they plan on doing it. So I see him being tendered a contract. Absolutely.
I think that's where I'm leaning as well. It's a very limited sample size toward the end of the season. And while that 2018 Rookie of the Year runner-up, which, side note, remember how crazy that debate was? Because like people were trying to be like, oh yeah, it's totally not Ohtani, it's this guy. But
right.
I like that does feel like a while ago, so much so that 2018 was my sophomore year of college. So this is a long time ago. But I think the way that I would internalize that is, you know, he has had the on and off health issues. There has been the element of underperformance. New York isn't exactly the easiest place to try to ease back in, and especially, you know, they're trying to win. This is not a matter of yeah, we're gonna let you take your lumps. It's like we need
Justice.
to
It's a t-ball field.
I would. I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. I like Yankee Stadium. I don't know what to say to that. Yeah, it's a small stadium, but you know, it's not just hitting the ball out of the ballpark. You still, you know, you got to lace your singles, you got to lace your doubles.
Mm.
But I think there is that element of, you know, getting him a full off season, like knowing this is, you know, he's going to be on the team, getting him getting the hitting group an opportunity to work with him, letting him do his thing over the course of the off season as someone that's healthy, and just kind of seeing. Because again, while that season was a long time ago, and while just the last couple years have not been great, there is that element of like, oh, like it's a risk. Like, let's be honest, it is a risk. There is an element of risk there, and I guess if you wanted to play like ceiling versus floor, I guess like if you had to hypothetically go one or the other, you kind of go Newman is the higher floor, but I don't remember Andujar's numbers. What was it, like 30 plus homers, something like that? 27 homers. Like even kind of in a very high run environment, like it's really difficult to, you know, just find some guy that like, oh yeah, he hit 27 homers. Even if Yankee Stadium is an offensive environment that's conducive to a lot of homers, there still is that element of like, oh, let's kind of see, you know, what we might have here, and just playing that calculated risk. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You kind of keep it pushing. It's not like there's if they were to have Andujar on the opening day roster and he was hypothetically DFA'd by May, I don't think everything's going to come crashing down. I don't think things are going to fall apart.
Just to put into perspective to how long ago that second place Rookie of the Year award was, Donald Trump had an all-time high approval rating of 47% that month.
Okay.
That's how long ago that was.
I just wanted to make sure I was right at 27 there.
I want to try to find a photo of myself in 2018. It was
So I was going another route.
For the record, I
Justice,
typed in
remember
Andujar on
Sheck
my
West?
Fangraphs.
I was just about to say it was Mo Bamba and a sicko mode. That when those were
Remember that's
powers.
how long it's been since Andujar was a good baseball player.
I want to interject. I want this to be on the record real quick. So I remember it so vividly. I was in my student newspaper. This is when I still had Apple Music and I didn't have Spotify yet. And I was like looking through the new music, and I was just kind of like exploring songs. And I'm a big basketball fan, so you know I'm in touch with the draft. I'm like looking at all the prospects, and I see this song called Mo Bamba, and I'm like Muhammad Bamba, like the center out of Texas. And I'm like, what the hell? And I play it. I'm like, oh, this goes hard. And then when it started blowing up, like I was trying to be like that contrarian, like, do y'all even know about Mo Bamba's game though? Is that game going to transfer to the NBA? Should the Magic pick him at 6? It's like just being that contrarian for the hell of it. But yeah, it has been a while.
Yeah, it has. So that's to me why I'm just not putting a whole lot of stock and faith into Andujar. He just simply isn't a good baseball player anymore.
the
And
record-
I'm with the Tyler side. I would prefer Kevin Newman over Andujar just for the position itself. He can play defense where Andujar can't. I'm not rostering a DH only player who hasn't been good for 4 years.
Not to mention, like, there's the whole fact that his 2018 season, now that we have the real advanced stats with StatCast, really shows he wasn't that great that year. I think he was essentially extremely average that year. I'm just not interested in him.
I wish an average season of mine would be 27 homers.
I mean, he
put
plays
together a
at
pretty
T-ball
good year.
park. He
put
had a
together a
I'm messing with
320
y'all.
WXP.
I'm messing with y'all.
There's 129 weighted runs created plus, which is park adjusted.
Yeah, but
park
look at his
adjusted.
expected weighted on base average. It's 320.
361.
Was
Oh, 360.
expected?
That was not expected.
Expected?
Expected was 322. Yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad. It changed in like a day.
Yeah. Right.
Really, it all comes back to the fact that in like 2018, I was playing MLB The Show, and I'd play against people that played in Yankee Stadium, and some little scrub would hit a home run 315 down the line, and that's when I grew my hatred for that ballpark.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. Sorry
That's
about that.
That's what I love about baseball, though. That's what differentiates baseball from literally every other sport. It's kind of just like, these dimensions are what they are. I remember looking at like the history of like why that was a thing recently, and I was just like, huh. But
I mean, that is weird. I mean, honestly, it really is. Like you said, it's the only sport. Every sport has the exact measurements of everything. And then baseball is like,
No, that is a
Whatever
really
you
good
want.
thing. I like that about baseball because like each park has their own kind of thing that's really just unique to it. So no, I enjoy that. And I'm not gonna like hate on Yankee Stadium. Yeah, it's definitely easier to hit home runs there. But there are plenty of other
Also,
hitter friendly
their fans
ballparks out there. But yeah, it's been a long time since Miguel Andujar has been good.
Yeah.
I would have never claimed him in the first place. But that's me.
I know Jim's not. I'm not. Tyler is. Justice, you single as well?
that was such a random question. I don't know what question I was expecting.
There's a
Does
comment
that
here.
just
We can find your love in U City if you'd like.
Does that just
So-
pop up? Is that spam?
So, anyone's interested?
Okay,
We
wait. Okay,
got spammed 3 times. Here's another one.
there it is.
That's got an emoji.
I gotta.
And then we got this one too.
I kind of got a funny-ish stories. I guess the answer is that question is yes as of right now. So I was in Chicago a couple weeks ago. It was for so it was my birthday, but it was also the birthday party of one of my homies, and like I volunteered to cook because cooking is like one of the things I love to do. It's like my way of showing love, things of that nature.
Nice.
And so it was a pretty small apartment, but it was like 40 people. And so like I drove to Chicago from Pittsburgh, and I was like prepping the food in Pittsburgh. Then I drive over to Chicago, finish it off over there. And so the plate, like the slate, it was gumbo. And by the time we ate it, that thing was on the stove for 24 hours. There was mac and cheese, yams, and fried chicken, like some real Southern shit. And I remember the way that I make mac and cheese is I make like a bechamel, like that creamy white sauce, and then you pour it over the noodles. I know this has become a really weird Food Network side tangent, but stick with me. This is related to the question you just asked. So I'm like pouring it, like I'm like there's been like people like hawking me the entire time I'm like cooking. They're like ready to eat. And like I'm like finishing the mac and cheese. It's looking beautiful as always because I don't mess up in the kitchen. And this dude behind me is just like slightly inebriated. He's like, "Bro, do you have a significant other?" And I'm like, "Nah, dog, I'm a free agent." And then he just like deadpan looks at me, "Me too." And then we just like have this like warm embrace. It was like the funniest shit. It's like one of my favorite moments of this year. But I'm glad
Hold
to know
on.
that the
Let's
spam
just reel us in here. Where are you from, Justice?
Hercules, California, otherwise known as a city in the Bay Area, otherwise known as the Yay area. Shout out E40.
What the hell do you know about gumbo?
What do I know about gumbo? I know
don't feel like they teach gumbo out there.
I know enough.
I mean, who are you to say what gumbo is, Tyler?
I
In
am
Ohio.
I have nothing to say that, but I
I-
feel like
I
am.
will say-
It's like if I jumped on here today and said I made gumbo, these guys would trash me.
I will say the thing about like the Bay Area food scene, and I admittedly did not grow up like eating a lot of gumbo, but the thing about the Bay Area food scene is like pretty much any craving that you have, like we can find something for you. And I was like one of those kids. Like I don't really watch TV. I don't watch like movies like that. Like predominantly what I watch is like cooking videos on YouTube and Netflix and baseball. And so I've like just watched like I go down that rabbit hole, and I've pretty much like memorized it like back of my hand now at this point. So I know a little bit. I know a little bit about gumbo.
I mean,
So sticking on food topics, right? You're famous for the donuts,
Yeah.
right? Bringing donuts in. First off, why? Do you just really like donuts, and then also, what was your favorite donut place that you've been to this year?
Well, first off, I'm a little disappointed that on that stack of albums, there isn't Donuts by Jay Dilla, R.I.P. Jay Dilla, the GOAT. I actually have let me pull it up right here. I just caught this at a bookstore about Dilla time.
Okay.
He's
I
the
see
GOAT,
you.
man. He's the
All right.
GOAT. But in terms of like the donuts, it started when I was young in terms of just loving them. It was my mom, like every time we would go to Albertsons, I don't know, like I think that would maybe be I think the equivalent would be like Giant Eagle. I'm not entirely sure, but we would like whenever we go to the store, like she would drag me with her, and my reward for going with her to the store was she would get me out like 2 chocolate donuts with the sprinkles, and that was kind of always a thing. Like go to the store, gonna get those 2 chocolate donuts with the sprinkles, and so I just grew up like not eating like hella. Like I wasn't like this wasn't an every week thing, but that was kind of where the affinity started for me. I just like just loving like Krispy Kreme. I'm sad that we don't have them out in Pittsburgh. There's actually a funny video of J. Cole and Krispy Kreme, just complete side tangent about how much he loves it. But there's actually also like a super interesting history of donuts in California, and this is the Asian American Studies major that's going to pop out in me. I'm gonna distill this very badly, but essentially there was this one guy who came over from, I want to say it was somewhere in Southeast Asia. I don't know if it was Cambodia or Vietnam, but essentially he comes to Southern California and he kind of starts this donut empire. And so like if you come to California, like a lot of the donut shops that you'll see are Asian owned, specifically by Southeast Asians. Like one of my friends who's Vietnamese and Cambodian actually has a couple donut spots out here in the Bay. And if you come to the Bay and you want donuts, just search Happy Donuts or Happy Donut. You'll find like 20 of them. But in terms of like the element of like bringing them to the stadium, this is a tradition that I started last year when I was interning with .com. And I learned very quickly that day games were just like the bane of everyone's existence. Like you're coming off of a night game. You're probably not getting home until like midnight, 1 o'clock, depending on how the game went. You're probably not sleeping until 2. Then you got to wake up at like 8 or 9 the next day. Super quick turnaround. Probably not eating anything for breakfast. Probably really tired, especially when you're on these super lengthy homestands. And so for me, that was just kind of my way of, extending my arm and saying like, hey, like you made it to the stadium. Like here's your little reward for making it to the stadium. And it's also a way to literally and figuratively break bread. And that was kind of my way of getting to know a lot of, beat writers that would come in, because when I was intern last year, I was predominantly stationed in Oakland and San Francisco. And I just kind of became known as like that kid that like brought in donuts all the time. Like people would like be like it would get to the point when like I would pull up to like Sundays, like you got the stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I got the stuff. And it was super wholesome. I'm gonna pull it out for you right here. I still got it on my bookshelf. But they like over the course of that year, they like always joked with me about like specifically the San Francisco press box. They'd always joke with me about like being the quote unquote rookie of the year for like always bringing donuts. So at the end of the year, like they handed me this little this little thing that said Rookie of the Year, like this fake, like
Nice.
this trophy of
That's awesome.
sorts. And so when I came to Pittsburgh, like it was only natural to kind of just continue doing it. I remember Mackie, like when we were out in Bradenton, very first time I pulled up, he's like, this fool thinks he can bribe us with the donuts. He's absolutely right. To kind of go on like I'm gonna get like real philosophical with this real quick. So just please allow me to go there with it. But I recently finished reading All About Love by Bell Hooks, and it talks about, love through like various angles. Like there's like the romantic sense of love, but it's also like community. It's also familiar. There's also kids. And I was writing down a bunch of quotes as I was reading the book. And one of the quotes, I know this is not where we expected this to go. Please bear with me as we go down this.
You're good.
Explains a lot of the philosophy of the question. I'm still answering the question. But one of the quotes that caught my attention was by an author named Sharon Salzberg. And it said, true giving is a thoroughly joyous thing to do. We experience happiness when we form the intention to give in the actual act of giving and the recollection of the fact that we have given. Generosity is a celebration. When we give something to someone, we feel connected to them, and our commitment to the path of peace and awareness deepens. If you thought Jake Krause was the only writer that reads books, but I hope that answers your question. That's like my long-winded way of saying donuts.
Okay.
And I love it.
All right. So best spot you got donuts at on the road this year?
On the road. I promise I'm not pandering to like a Pittsburgh audience, but Dough Ride in Chicago was just kind of mid. I feel like I need to say that. It was okay.
All right.
Dang, I'm trying to remember them off top. I don't want to just go home field advantage too and go to the Bay Area because Bay Area always has my heart.
Justice.
Do I got to do it?
Next summer, I'm bringing you some blueberry donuts from White House Fruit Farms. Change your life.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Baby, I'll tell you what. Just look. I'm sure you're a TikTok scroller.
I stay off TikTok. I joke with my nieces about being on TikTok.
Well, if you ever just venture on the internet, I'm sure you do. Look up White House Fruit Farms, blueberry donuts. Whoo, baby.
Where's that station at?
It's over in Ohio, Canfield. It's probably about a half hour from Pittsburgh.
We're gonna make it happen.
Oh, I will bring them to you.
We'll make it happen.
The next NS9 live podcast.
I will be bringing White House.
Make that happen again next year.
Next,
So I will say this: like my favorite donuts are actually in Bradenton, Anna Maria Island, Donut Experiment, kind of like the northern tip of the island there. Love that spot.
Never had them.
I'm gonna have to give that a try. What was that? Speaking of Bradenton, like two of the two donut spots that I would go to in Bradenton were Asian owned. And I walked in there and I was like, of course, these are the spots that I found. Like, this is so on brand. Where else would it be?
Yeah. No, Donut Experiment on Anna Maria Island. It's legit.
I'm gonna have to give that a try. There's that one donut spot that's right by Lecom. It's like not even a 5-minute drive away. I mess with that place heavy. I can't remember what it is off top, but I mess with that place heavy.
I just recommend the White House Fruit Farm blueberry donut. I'll tell you what. Google it.
I have driven 3 hours for a milkshake. I will drive 30 minutes for some donuts.
So, I mean, I think the real Pittsburgh question here is, have you had Permanis yet?
I have. That was like one of the very first things it was like the very first week that I was here. I think I got the pastrami. Like, it was that place I'd always heard of, always wanted to try it.
Yeah.
I don't really get it. I'm not one to get inebriated, but I can imagine if I was, that would have been hitting. And I went to the original one I think the original one's on the Strip, right?
Yeah.
Strip District.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I went to that one too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I will. Y'all might be disappointed in me when I say this, though. I've yet to have a pierogi. It just has not happened. For all my sauerkraut sauce slander, me myself have not had a pierogi.
I'll say it. Pierogies are trash.
You are
an idiot.
That's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
It's
the
literally a Polish ravioli.
That's
how
the
you say it's trash.
like,
It's
it's trash.
pasta with like mashed potatoes in the middle.
It's
Like
potatoes. It's trash.
That's the thing though. It's like every culture's
There's
like
no
got
more
their-
famine.
God.
We're done.
Every
You
culture's
are
like got that.
so stupid.
That is the worst take that's ever been said on this podcast.
Pierogies. I enjoy the
No,
race.
So bad. So bad.
I don't enjoy the race. I do not enjoy the race. I actively have disdain for that race.
Well, here's what I'll say. The Pirates did Saul dirty this year. You can't mess with like Sauerkraut Saul has a long and storied history of being a very productive pierogi. And it was sad to see what they did to him this year. It was sad.
I will say, so when I first got on the beat, I did not know about the pierogi race. And it was in Bradenton. I was like looking at someone's locker and I was like, what the hell are those? It was either that or when I followed Alex and I saw like his banner, I was like, what the hell is this? And I was like, and then he's like, yeah, this is what it is. And I was like, oh, okay. And then they ruined my ability to listen to Sabotage by Beastie Boys. I had to take that off my play. I can't listen to that song anymore. Every time it comes on, I'm just like transported back to the fifth inning, the bottom of the fifth inning at a ballpark.
We are glossing over the fact that Donardo does not like mashed potatoes inside.
No,
of
I
a-
love mashed
No,
potatoes.
it's honestly, it's the
I actually
worst.
just had mashed potatoes.
It's his worst take he's ever had. I've never
That-
heard
that's
anybody
the
say
dumbest thing I've
Mm,
heard in my
I
life.
probably have
my
worse.
life.
But it's true.
No.
You haven't had a good pierogi then. Like if you think pierogies are bad, that means you haven't had a good pierogi.
Oh,
Like
I'm
you've
sorry.
had trash pierogies
Western
somewhere.
Pennsylvania.
I don't
I
know
don't think
where
there's a-
pierogies.
I don't know
I don't
where
think
you
there's
got
a
your
bad
pierogies
pierogi.
from. That's true. I've never had a bad pierogi, but like you must have had like a 2-month-old rotten pierogi to have that sort of opinion.
It was just a day old rotten pierogi. 'cause
That
they're all
is like
rotten.
Justice saying he doesn't like sushi.
See, what this is amounting to is like the next time I'm on here, we just got to do a mukbang. We just
I'm
gotta,
waiting
like,
for him to say he doesn't like sushi.
we gotta-
Are you gonna say you don't like sushi?
Oh no, I love sushi.
Okay.
Like
See?
sashimi, like it's actually sad. One of
I
the
mean, we don't have good sushi out here, but
now there's a place. It's called Umami. It's in Lawrenceville. It's like one of the few restaurants that I've had a chance to venture out to. It's a little expensive, but they do some good. Like I think I did sashimi when I was there. It was very good. I was impressed. Although I do be missing my Filipino food. I'm not gonna lie.
don't think I've ever had that.
So I want to bring this up too, because you've bribed the beat, right, with your donuts and such, right? Now, Justice, you were up for a fanboy today, or this year, I should say, right? Your first year on the beat, you're up for a fanboy, but Alex Stump took it from you. So I just want to throw some things in here because it's going to come with a question also. Alex Stump, back-to-back fanboy winner. Now, you bribe the beat, you can bribe the fans and maybe try to earn yourself a fanboy. So this upcoming year, Justice, will you bring lobsters to the game? Because if so,
Hey,
feel
I
like you
ain't
can
gonna
win
say
yourself
who.
a fanboy and steal it from Alex.
I ain't gonna say who, but immediately after that tweet, and I guess the funny thing about that tweet is it kind of revealed that I'd be lurking on the Reddit page too. But immediately after that tweet, I'm not gonna say who, but like someone in the org like texted me and was like, "Hey, you could for sure do that. Like, it's possible. It's for sure gonna happen."
I'm actually really surprised that like the next day somebody didn't post a tweet like I got one in.
I was afraid that was gonna
held up
happen, and then someone was gonna be like, "Look at what you did," and I'm like, "I didn't do anything."
I actually have a question for Justice here. Does anybody have better style than you on the beat?
I mean, I could play the whole, style is subjective, this person's style. is
Okay,
different
who
from that
has better
person's
style, you or Ken Rosenthal? Because the guy's got
Man,
the good
Ken-
tie work.
Can't like that's the thing about like Rosenthal is like when you like have like for me personally, I'm not a big like suit and tie person or guys like a suit and bow tie, but like when you can like it says something when like you become synonymous for a look. Like not a lot of people like have ownership over a certain type of look. Like I don't think I really have ownership over a certain type of look. I just
There's not another beat writer out there in like a trench coat.
I just like to be very loud. You can ask my best friend about this. But like whenever I asked him, like he's at thrifting events, he's like, "What do you want?" I say, "Give me something that's loud." That's kind of where I would go off with it. But I think this wasn't asked, but I think the most extra outfit that I had the entire year, and it shouldn't come as a surprise, it was when we went to Miami, and I was like, and this is because I went to All-Star like right after that, and I was like, if I'm going to Miami, I'm gonna get this fit off. So like I had like my nice, I think the material is corduroy. I got some nice little corduroy pants. I got a nice little shirt. And then I brought the hat with me too. Brought my sunglasses with me. You know, popped a couple buttons open, a little more than I typically would. I'm just like on the field, like I remember as I was asking Mike to like take that photo for me, I'm like, this is so extra. And I will say I got like Miami, I will take some pride in this. Like over the course of the year, like I would have like a couple players and like coaches be like, "Oh, you doing your little thing? You getting your little fit off? I see you getting your little fit off." So I guess that's like positive reinforcement, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just trying to. Baseball doesn't have like a version of league fits, at least that I know of. I think like the best dressed writer that I know is probably James Edwards at The Athletic. He covers the Pistons. Like he will get some fits off, but I think like right now, especially once I start like, because first year like I'm moving into a new apartment, I got to get some furniture, got to fill that place up, so I'm spending a decent chunk of my change there. But I think season 2, put a little money away. I might have to negotiate to get some outfits in the budget for my post game video, for the post game videos, of course.
Right,
love it.
Yeah, it's a work expense for sure.
It is a work expense.
Yeah.
Then you're told you're gonna turn around like us and wear hoodies.
There's nothing. I'm wearing a hoodie right now. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, but we're like in comfy hoodies. Like, man,
this is another thing. Pittsburgh doesn't have Uniqlo, which is like a very specific clothing store. And like, if you ever out in like, I think the closest one's in like Philly. They got some comfy hoodies. Uniqlo, sponsor me. Let's run it up.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
Where do we go from there? So that was all from donuts right there. That was all from the donuts.
That was all from Jay Dilla's Donuts. I mean, I can banter forever. I haven't had a chance to like podcast in a couple years, but I used to, especially during the pandemic, like I had one that like do a couple times a week. And so I get it from my mom, honestly, just like the ability to talk for a while. Like my dad is like typical immigrant Filipino father. It's not talk as much, but I get it from my mom. I can talk about anything and everything.
So let me ask you this, because I saw some of those things. Not gonna lie, I looked you up a little bit here.
Oh no!
So you rode your bike 1,000 miles in the month of August?
Oh, you found a YouTube page? Oh no! I knew I should have deleted that shit.
Tell us about that, Justice.
All right, so I didn't make it. I fell short. But yeah, I feel like I've got like some biking related materials here. I'm like looking on my bookshelf right now if I got any mementos. But basically during the pandemic, I got like, we're obviously just trying to find ways to kill time. And I got super into biking. There was this bike community that I was part of called ABC, another bike club, organized by a couple folk, like some local folks that got a little bit of clout to their name. And we would like organize every Wednesday, like we call it Ride Out Wednesday, where like we would either meet up in Oakland or San Francisco, just like mosh around the streets. There'd be these dudes doing like suicide wheelies. I don't know if y'all know what those are, but that's when like you pop a wheelie in oncoming traffic, and right as you're about to hit a car, you swerve away. I've seen it so many times, and it still like just scares the hell out of me every time I see it. Like I remember I kind of became like their unofficial photographer as well. Like I'll just be like on my bike, like shooting as we're doing the ride outs. But in between all of those ride outs, like, I just got like super into it. So, like it was just a good way to kill time. And I would just try like finding treks, finding things that's like 30 to 40, 50 miles. And all that stuff became like regular. Like there's this one trail we have out here in the Bay called Iron Horse Trail. It's 25 miles one way, 25 miles the other way. It takes like 4 hours to do, but just bored one day, nothing really to do. Hop on the bike and go, like slap loud music the whole entirety of the way there. Just have fun with it. And I didn't even, when I was doing all this biking, like I wasn't even thinking about like muscle development. But I remember like looking at my quads one day. I was like, hey, yo, this is doing its little work there. But unfortunately, like I was never consistent enough to hit that 1,000 miles in one day. I don't know if you watched any of the videos, but there was this one time I was biking from my hometown to Oakland. I made it there fine, but on the way back, like I hit this bump, started swerving, like slammed into a pole, cut up both of my Achilles pretty bad. And I was like, this is we're gonna have to put a pause to this. But yeah, that's kind of those vlog videos are kind of like the impetus to my my post game videos, and like they're very similar. It's just like me doing whatever in front of a camera. So yeah, in terms of my resume, I was a vlog boy in a past life.
So did you bike at all in Pittsburgh?
I have not. I didn't even bring my bike to Pittsburgh.
No,
He ain't Juju.
I was just gonna say that. I mean, I know he's not. He didn't grow up over there in
Southern-
California, but you love flexing all the players. I thought maybe you and Juju might ride some bikes around Pittsburgh, but you're a year late.
Juju SoCal though. SoCal and NorCal got like a rivalry going on. I remember I remember joking with Sable about that when I talked to him. I was like, because Sable went to USC, I went to Cal, so we bonded over our hatred of UCLA.
So when you came to Pittsburgh, did you expect, I guess, the level of hatred that fans have towards the Pirates?
I mean, I know with like every fan base, like you got the folks that'll get riled up, got the folks that'll kind of like dive way too deep into some things that shouldn't be diving deep into. That sentence made no sense, but I learned it very quickly. In spring training, especially like once the roster started whittling down. I'm like things that we kind of expected is just like, y'all okay? Y'all good? Yeah, like,
Great.
Can
Like,
y'all
it's
catch y'all breath real quick?
It's not like other like the Yankees, for
Yeah.
example. They get riled up over every pitch. Pirates fans, on the other hand, we're just negative by birth. We were born in this.
I guess what was the most surprising thing to you about the Pirates fan base?
Surprising. I don't know. I mean, for me, like my interactions with the fan base have like generally been positive. At least I kind of try to shy away from.
Right.
I'm really quick to mute. Like they're like if I see someone that's just like constantly spewing nonsense, I'm like, nah, I can't. I'm not trying to deal with this.
So that's why you don't know Bucko Mike.
He doesn't even. I never muted him. I never muted him. Again, I don't even think he follows me. I don't know. But it's a very passionate fan base. Like that was something that like I learned very quickly. I'm surprised y'all didn't just banish me to never like to levels of like never being read. I'm surprised I wasn't just instantly blocked when I posted my announcement photo. Because honestly, looking back at that one in retrospect, I was like, I don't know if that was the fit or not.
You were talking about loud outfits.
That's like, hey, in retrospect, that's one hell of a way to like introduce yourself to like a fan base. Like, I remember putting that together. I was like, this is gonna be like the loudest thing I've ever. But in my defense, I was like, I only get to make this announcement once. I was like, let me make
a statement.
Let me have some fun with it. I think I set the bar a little too high though. Now I'm just gonna be like wearing hoodies to the ballpark when it gets cold. I can't
it'll get cold.
I can't pull that off.
I was just looking to see what like our first interaction was, and it was definitely O'Neal. It was O'Neal Cruz related. March 20th, because I was very vocal, very, very, very vocal about O'Neal Cruz not being on that opening day roster. But
yeah,
I think like I joke about this, but like I'm almost like scared isn't the right word, but like whenever I tweet anything O'Neal Cruz related, it is just like this bombardment of like, but he's hitting to whatever his on base percentage, whatever he strikes out, whatever. I'm like, yo, we've said this point like so many times, and I don't think we need to rehash this a million times.
Yeah.
And I will say this too. I'm very like, when it comes to like nonsense, I kind of just brush it off, but I see it, and I could be petty, I could pop off. So we're gonna keep that. I don't do it a lot. I think I did it like one time over the course of the season. I forgot why. Someone was just being hella annoying. But there might be a day when I just pop off and just get a couple tweets off. Might be that day.
I can't wait.
I don't know what it would like. I don't know what it would have to be to like trigger me to do that, but
honestly,
it's in there.
It's gonna take a competitive Pirates team probably, because I feel like we're all kind of at that breaking point. We all lived through that 13 through 15 stretch that the Pirates were good, and Pirates Twitter was amazing, but also just an absolute nightmare. And now we're all kind of on the same page where we lived through that, and we've all been there for so long and watched them for so long. Now we've got the new people jumping in that we all just hate them now.
Like the accounts?
We got the new neighbors that jumped in and we don't like them. Like our neighborhoods, we're good here.
I'm all for like new Pirates fans. Like, I mean, and that was something
Not
like
on
2013 in particular. Like you saw a lot of people come out of the woodwork. So I will welcome any and all fans.
Nope. We hate positivity.
There's some people that annoy me with their over positivity, but no, I'm give me all the fans. I'm good with it.
Yeah, and like I'm fans, I'm not gonna say care less. I guess. I mean, there's some that are just like way overboard, like you're saying. Sometimes, Jim. It's not the fans that I really care and worry about. It's the people that believe they're more than fans that want to carry that tune.
Well, the writers.
You send in.
And
some
it's
shots,
like you're kind of doing quite a disservice to people who view you for education when you're talking nonsense. But anyways, those people.
Were you at the town hall meeting? Obviously, you weren't. You were.
I was.
Have you heard
I don't
anything?
think none of the members of the media who were there.
Right. But that was a question that was in the chat. Yeah, so you didn't hear that quote or anything like anything they actually said firsthand.
But the Pirates were aiming for 83 wins this year, or they're planning on 83 wins.
I did see that. Which that doesn't, that's not going to surprise me. It's not going to shock me at all. Not in terms of like the actual wins and losses, but in terms of that being said, that doesn't really shock me. But I will say it's the more okay, I'm gonna be honest. I think that's going over my head. This is no disrespect to whoever that is. I'm not trying to pull like a Kiki. I'm not trying to pull like a Kiki Palmer. I'm not pulling like a Kiki Palmer. Like, I don't know who this man is. Sorry to this man. But I'm still like familiarizing myself with like the Twitter sphere, and like I mentioned this to y'all before we started. Like, there's some folks out there that say some interesting things, and I feel like every fan base has them. But I don't think I don't send shots at them, but I see it. I just want to say that, like, I see a lot of stuff. I don't tweet about a lot of stuff, but I see a lot of stuff, and some of it just makes me like raise my eyebrows, like, okay.
I think the difference is probably just the Pirates fan base is such a small community compared to maybe like a Yankees fan base that a lot of it will go over your head. The passionate
speaking of fan
Pirate
bases and such, I mean, before he was writing for Around the Foghorn, Justice was a Giants fan. Speaking of the wild card games, 2014. So, well, I know you're right now, right? You're covering the Pirates and such, but like, what was it like being a fan of a team that was good? You won 3 championships, and also knocked the Pirates out of the wild card.
I mean, like, I would be remiss if I didn't say like Bay Area is like we're spoiled out here. Like even if you throw the Warriors throw the Giants out of the equation, like I'm a Warriors fan. We were talking about this before the show, and like, you know, the 4 titles since 2015. The Giants, they had that 5-year run. The Sharks, before, they were like choking away like 3-0 leads in the Stanley. We kind of forget that. Niners going to a couple Super Bowls, but it was, I mean, for the majority of like when I was like growing up, like, and when I say growing up, it's like I have vague memories of 2002. Like I don't remember like Dusty Baker pulling out Russ Ortiz in like real time, but like I have vague memories of that. Actually, if you want to know how like much of a baseball nerd I was from a young age, for my 4th birthday, my mom got me the 2002 commemorative DVD. So like I have like a bunch of like really random memories burned into my head, like David Eckstein hitting a walk-off grand slam against the Blue Jays. Like, why does not? And I'm like growing up too, like, why is this not common knowledge for everybody? Like, y'all don't remember this? But I remember the early years, like it was just so much like Bonds. I don't know, Bonds is like a sensitive topic, which I want to turn that question over to y'all in a second. But I don't know if that's a universal opinion.
It's not.
But
No,
we
it's
all
not
vouch
universal,
for him.
but yeah,
He
we
should
do
be in the
love
Hall of Fame.
him. Yeah, we do love him.
This is a side note. During the pandemic, I went down like a rabbit hole of like trying to figure out which version of Barry Bonds was the best. That was a fun thought experiment. I think I
The
said
one that had like a 600 on base percentage, whatever one that was.
that was 04. But the
Yeah.
question is, for me, it was between 04 and 93. 93, of course, being the first season that he left the Pirates.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the majority of like growing up, a lot of it was just kind of Bonds, because like the team itself, like they could never put a team around him, and it was like the home run chase. Like I have so many memories of that, and it's really interesting to think like in 07, like Bonds and Lincecum were on the same team. Like it's weird to think of those
Lincecum was
paths
so
crossing over.
good.
Side note, Lincecum's actually Filipino, like the best Filipino-American baseball player to ever exist, to my knowledge. But then you kind of get into that Lincecum age, and like you go like 08, 09, and you're like, all right, there, like Lincecum's doing his thing, Matt Cain's doing his thing, but and like you got Buster coming up. It's like, are they actually gonna be good? And then, 10, 12, and 14 happens. I kind of do maintain the stance that the Giants were like probably the worst team in the playoffs every single year they won. Like if you kind of like go, especially that 2010 roster. That 2010 roster was they just had some dudes on there, like some guys. That pitching was nasty. So
were you more of like a Bryce Harper or a Hunter Strickland kind of guy?
Hunter Strickland was like
Former Pirate, by the way.
I maintain that he was in the wrong. He was a Pirate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of guys were.
I was gonna say, you're around the league, you're gonna find a lot of those guys.
If we're talking about guys that should be in the Hall of Fame, I'm gonna give a shout out to a former Pirate, Kenny Lofton. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
Ooh, you're speaking to Tyler.
I feel like I just struck a nerve there.
Oh baby,
that was like Kenny
he's
Lofton.
speaking my language.
He was on that 02 Giants team too. They just criminally underrated. I think if they didn't do like a 10 ballot thing,
Better numbers than Ichiro.
I don't. Hey, we ain't gonna get into any Ichiro slander. I don't want. Let's not compare two kings. Ichiro is the man.
I'm saying if one's in, so should the other.
I mean, no, not really. Ichiro, we're not going to get into this conversation, but you can't compare Kenny Lofton to Ichiro. I'm
Sure,
sorry.
I can.
I think he just did.
Right.
I absolutely can. I did.
I was actually just showing one of my nieces. There's like this compilation of Ichiro's infield hits, and I think one of them is set to Shook Ones Part 2. It's the known Pirate Travis Ishikawa. I don't remember exactly where I was when he hit that walk-off to send the Giants to the World Series, but there's like a compilation video of like Ichiro infield singles to like classic rap beats. It's one of my favorite just like places to dive down on YouTube. So there's that side tangent, but yeah, going back to like the Giants, like it was I don't even know how to articulate it, honestly. Like I don't want to say it was normal, which makes me feel like hella arrogant. But like between that and like
that was normal.
Yeah, like that was just kind of,
I mean, they won every other year.
That was just kind of how it was. And then that kind of like the first year that that dynasty kind of starts trickling out. The Warriors do their thing. I would, if you want to get me like really riled up, if you start slandering Mr. Wardell Stephen Curry II, that's when you're gonna get me really riled up. Honorary Filipino.
I don't think anyone here is gonna slander Steph. I think you're safe there.
But yeah, it's just a super interesting time, like being out here and like, people that are like barely even baseball fans. Like once the playoffs come around, it's like, oh yeah, I'm all in. And again, me being like that kind of contrarian, it's like, what you know about the core four and the bullpen? What you know about Affel and Romo and Casilla? Like what you know about those fools? Definitely being like that, kind of arrogant little high schooler. But it's a lot of memories out here. It's a lot of good memories. It's kind of like a weird position now. I've kind of like abandoned fandom, as a result of taking this job. So like the way that I view baseball is a lot different, but always gonna kind of have those years like fall back on.
Right.
And I know that I knew as soon as I came to Pittsburgh, I was like, don't talk about 2014 to anybody. Because I know there was like that whole thing with like, Cole and Liriano, and like I know that was like a whole debacle.
I know exactly where I was in my little truck driving around at work when that home run got hit, when the grand slam got hit. And I punched my steering wheel. Nope. I was at work because they won in 2013 when I was at work driving my truck around. So I decided, you know what? I'll do it again this year. Didn't work.
Yeah, that wasn't a good game. We'll move past that.
I don't feel like we need to bring that back up, but I do feel like Justice should be an Oakland A's fan just to like deal with our pain.
It's actually funny, like geographically speaking, I'm a lot closer to the A's.
Especially so you should be an A's fan.
But I will say, so my mom is originally from San Francisco, and then my dad immigrated to San Francisco. So it was kind of like that's kind of the connection there. But I do want to go back to the question of Bonds, because like I've always known that he's like super polarizing, but I don't know how polarizing. Like can you like appreciate like controversy or not? Like, can you appreciate like what the totality of his career, or is it always like that lingering like what could have been if he like stayed?
I feel like it's different with our age group. For maybe our fathers that are Pirates fans, they might feel differently. For ours, I think we appreciate him a little bit more.
That probably could be it.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. I was 5 when he left the Pirates, so I don't really have any personal memories of Pittsburgh Pirate Barry Bonds. Right, all my memories of Barry Bonds are as a Giant. Now I remember like looking at 1993 Topps baseball cards, and I remember it had Barry Bonds in a Pirates jersey, but it said Giants, right? So I specifically remember like that particular set of baseball cards. But no, I've always thought very fondly of Barry Bonds. I mean, growing up, he was a really good baseball player throughout the entire course of the 90s while I was a kid. And then what he did towards the tail end of his career was just insane. Steroids or not, I don't really care. Like, you're not going to convince me that there's a better hitter that ever lived. Best hitter of all time. Steroids or not. So that's my thoughts on it.
Me and Alex got into like a Griffey Bonds debate, like midway through the season. I think we said 90s specifically. I think that was like the terms of our debate. I remember losing in like the polls. I think product was that because Alex was the one that posted it, not me. But
yeah, the home field advantage.
Yeah, home field advantage. It was unfair.
Yeah.
But I firmly go with Bonds. Bonds in the 90s was like, again, I've just spent so many times on like so many hours on Fangraphs and Baseball Reference. Like, I love Griffey like that. Like, if they're like Griffey and Bonds are both like top 5 like guys like I wish I could see live in person, like in their prime of primes. But just going off the highlights, going off what I have, like you see those two dudes and you're like, it's Bonds, man.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
you
like,
look at
Griffey was my dude. I love Ken Griffey Jr. growing up, and it's like, so
you got a backwards. Both of you have backwards hats on.
Yeah, and there's
your Griffey guys.
There's his autograph right in that case.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, with that said, like I'm not gonna say like I was a huge Pirates fan growing up, so that could also be like my whole Bonds situation. I was born in Jersey. I moved here when I was 7, and I say here in Pittsburgh area. People in Pittsburgh like hate me for saying that. So I moved to Newcastle, and so it's like I wasn't like entrenched in the Pirate stuff. But yeah, like Griffey, I loved Griffey, and of course you talk about baseball movies, right? I mean, Griffey and Randy Johnson. What was it?
Little Big League.
Yeah, Little Big League.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like he was that dude for me. But Bonds was so good. But it's like one thing. Like I just wish it's one of those things. Like if one thing could change, I see that tweet all the time. Like if someone never experienced injuries, like that's Griffey to me. I wish he had it like the Bonds like career where he was just healthy throughout. So maybe he needed to take steroids. I don't know, but he needed to be that dude.
He's for sure hitting 700 homers healthy. For sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Instead,
He was very good for a long time. I mean, I think if you're just comparing the two, like you look at like black ink, right? Like it's just not even close. Barry Bonds his whole baseball reference page is just littered with black ink. Griffey's got a few here and there, but it's just nothing like Barry Bonds. And I think like kind of going back to the Griffey Bonds debate. Yeah. I mean, their careers aligned pretty closely as far as when they played. Griffey definitely had like the cool factor, right? Like he was in the movies. He had his own video games. He was actually in video games because like Barry Bonds was John Dowd, right? So like Barry Bonds wasn't even in
baseball.
Yeah, like he wasn't even
like,
in
let's
video
be
games.
honest.
He had video games named after him.
Yeah. So like Griffey definitely had like that popularity, cool factor going for him, whereas Bonds really never had that. He was mostly viewed as someone, media didn't like him, but you obviously saw the talent on the field. But I think that's why you have a lot of people growing up saying, I love Ken Griffey Jr. You don't have a lot of people who were growing up saying, I love Barry Bonds, just because, he just didn't have that cool factor to him.
I think people also forget, like, they were both super duper 5-tool dudes. Like, they stole 40 bases a year, both of them. Ken Griffey was unreal.
And never forget that they could have both been teammates on the Pirates, if not for the weird draft lottery rules.
Let's not go there either.
Yeah, that would have been pretty wild.
I remember tweeting about that in like the preseason. I remember pissing a lot of people off when I said that.
Man, what if you would have had like that Alf? Like, what if you had like a Griffey?
I remember the whole thing coming up. That was from you? Because I remember the whole thing coming up this year.
That was me.
So you started that shit.
I was just like, hey, this is super interesting. I didn't know this.
That's why I had to start bringing the donuts back.
But yeah, like imagine like a Griffey Bonds Van Slyke outfield there in those early 90s. Oh god,
nasty.
With Bobby Bonilla just hanging out third.
Yeah,
nasty.
Man.
I think like
but I think all three of us have a pretty favorable view of Barry Bonds.
Yep.
If there's like anyone that like I wish I just had their StatCast numbers, like he's one of those dudes. Like just like I would love to just like see what his percentiles would be on, like especially like 04. Yeah. Like we want to talk, like we always joke about like O'Neal like breaking StatCast, like that would be some crazy stuff. Or like 93, 92, like when he was doing his thing, just like what would that look like?
And Bonds had like a 480 on base percentage at like 42 years old.
That's what I was looking at. Like that's another thing. Like I don't think we talk enough about. He was 42 years old, and Jim wants to talk about everything in bold. He was 42 years old, led league in walks, led league in on base percentage. Like he batted 276, 480. He slugged 565.
Look at that.
42 years old. Like the guy didn't just stop playing baseball because he wasn't good. So, I mean, we're talking about Griffey, how he could have kept going if he was healthy. Like Bonds literally just could have kept going, and he was like, I'm not. He just stopped at being an MVP type player.
Well, I mean, I remember the rumors about the Pirates bringing him back.
Yeah, I heard a lot of this.
Remember the Washington Wild Things offered him a contract?
I don't remember that.
I really do think the guy could show up and maybe hit at a slightly below average major league level at this point.
This is just sounds like the modern day plot to Mr. 3000, because I think he's like 50 hits away from 3000, something like that.
I need to watch.
Yeah, he's real close. Yeah.
R.I.P. Bernie Mac.
20,
feel like
he's
this is an
65 hits away.
unwarranted
Wait,
shot at this
speaking
player right
of-
now. But would you rather have Barry Bonds your team right now or Mason Martin?
Barry Bonds.
Not a question.
Okay. That's what-
Speaking of baseball movies, did y'all know that like part of the fan was like shot at Three River Stadium?
I don't think I know that movie.
God, this is the most insane. Do either of y'all know that movie?
I don't know. I don't know the fan. No.
Oh
Isn't that with
my
Wesley
God.
Snipes?
Yes, this is where Wesley Snipes is basically Barry Bonds. Like he played in Atlanta and then he signed with San Francisco. It is like it's more of like a baseball adjacent movie. I'm gonna like partially spoil it, but like basically Wesley Snipes' character Bobby Rayburn, which is like it's such a 90s baseball name. Like he's like an MVP in Atlanta, signs with the Giants, and like Robert De Niro plays like this super stalkerish fan, and it just spirals from there. And like De Niro like eventually kidnaps the like Rayburn's kid. John Crux in the movie, and he gets stabbed to death in like the final scene on the field at like a pouring Candlestick Park. It's just like the wildest baseball movie. But apparently part of it was like shot and like Alex texted that to me. I was like, what? Like how?
Yeah. No.
It is like it's
Yeah.
so it's weird to just even look back on it. Like I watched in like middle school. I should not have been watching that.
What's your favorite baseball movie?
There's a lot of random movies that just get shot in Pittsburgh and in Pittsburgh sports stadiums in particular.
I just gotta know what his favorite is.
There's that one movie that has Taylor Lautner at like running through PNC Park.
Hmm.
Forgot like what it's called. But
Thought
like
that
that's
What you're gonna say is your favorite?
Oh, my favorite.
I thought I was about to say like Taylor Lautner running through PNC Park was.
Oh no, no. But a side note though, like when we were talking about Freddie Prinze Jr., like Taylor Lautner, like that was the comparison that I got a lot when I was a kid. Like when Shark Boy and Lava Girl was coming out, and then when Twilight came out, I got that compliment, or not. I don't even think it's a compliment or not.
No, that's a
Someone
compliment.
mentioned that to me like 3 days ago. Like I walked into a coffee shop and was like, "Has anyone ever told you look like Taylor Lautner?" And I was like, "Middle school, every single day." Yes, people call me Shark Boy. Favorite baseball movie though. Damn, this is actually I've actually like never thought too deeply about this subject.
I'm tried and true Field of Dreams.
See, I've got to go Major League. Like,
It's a Cleveland team. I can't root for it.
no, it's excellent. Like everything about it is excellent.
Nope, don't care.
I know Field of Dreams got like super polarizing because of the Field of Dreams game. But I will say like that's Field of Dreams is a movie that has like a special place in my heart because like
Yeah.
I watched that movie with my mom growing up. Like that's kind of like how our bond with baseball.
They have a catch at the end.
Is it have a catch? Or can we?
It's
play
have
catch?
a catch.
No, it's play catch.
It's
play
play
have
catch.
a catch.
They messed up that part.
Can
They
we
No,
messed
it's
up.
have a catch.
And that ruined the whole movie.
No,
It ruins the whole
it-
movie.
You're a dummy.
It's not have a catch. It's can we play catch or can we throw
No. You wanna have
something
a
else?
catch?
I
No,
love that
love it.
movie, but like right at the end, I'm just like, oh my god,
No,
it's not
love it.
have
They
a
have a catch. Brings a
And I
tear to
hate
your
that
eye.
we're gonna have to debate this every year ad infinitum for the
Yeah.
Field of Dreams game.
No, it's have a catch.
I feel like my favorite baseball movie might have to be Sandlot. I
That's
love
fair.
Sandlot.
It's fair.
So, all right. So since you mentioned it,
You're a bull.
because I was gonna say you guys are gonna hate me for saying this, but it's the Sandlot for me too. And I don't know, just the era when I watched it. I think that means a lot too. I don't know.
Yeah.
At the time of your life when you watch something. I mean, I was those kids then, and
I'm just
don't know.
glad
I
that
love
we
the
know
Sandlot.
that Justice is a full-on Giants fan because he didn't pick Moneyball.
Well, I was gonna say it's actually funny. I was watching like Moneyball clips right before this. Moneyball has like such a special place in my heart. too.
Moneyball is so
It's
the
good.
movie is so wrong though.
Like Sandlot is mid. Sadly, I kind of get out of here. Out of here.
no lobster for you now.
No lobster.
No one
I'm
said
gonna-
Bull Durham though. I'm a big Bull Durham fan.
I
too.
love Bull Durham.
I came to
But-
Bull Durham late.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
like.
watch
like-
that until later.
Moneyball
have,
is
like,
just so inaccurate in general. I
feel like it was a good
kinda
movie, though.
pushed me off.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good movie, but it kind of pushed me off of it. Just
I think the
knowing
thing about all
inaccuracies
that
of it.
gets me is like they act like this winning streak was like winning the World Series and like the greatest
Yeah.
thing of all time, and it was. I mean, it was a regular season win.
They also just completely
You know,
ignored the fact that they had like the best rotation in baseball.
They never even mentioned it. They never mentioned Barry Zito, Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder. Like they didn't mention those guys.
I feel like they mentioned Ricardo Rincon more than all three of those guys
They
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
put
Like,
together.
Yeah.
That
Now
being
in the
said,
book,
like-
in the book, they talk about those guys.
Yeah. But like
Yeah.
Carlos Pena was hardly on that team. He got traded at deadline.
That being said,
He
just
wasn't good.
the scene where like where Jonah Hill and Brad Pitt, like it's after the winning, it's like after the season ended, and he's like, it's a metaphor, Billy. He's like, I know it's a metaphor. That's always a scene. I guess
Yeah.
tugs at the heartstrings. I'm trying to think of like more.
Like, how
What
can
other
you
movies
not
we
be
got?
romantic about baseball? That'll get you.
Always get you.
Mhm.
What other like good movies are out there? I'm like blanking on just a bunch of movies right now.
I mean, you brought up Mr. 3000. I used to love that movie.
Mr. 3000 is so good.
There's another one about Roberto Clemente. I think it's like Chasing 3000 with
Yeah, that's a good movie too. I teared up at the end of that one.
it's a good movie.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's very like low produced, but
Yep, it's solid though. And like I'm also a big fan of like 61. Like I like that movie. I think it's well
well
done.
old for me.
And like The Natural is just kind of like a classic, you know.
Have y'all ever seen like the actual ending of The Natural? Like that's in the book?
No.
Basically, like the dude gets like sentenced to jail. And it's like a whole like shoeless Joe Jackson thing like that. That's a completely different ending than compared to the book.
Yeah.
If we're talking about recent movies though, 42 is very good.
I love 42.
42 is excellent.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all have seen
No.
like the new Black Panther yet, but
Not yet.
Not yet.
like y'all know how I'm not gonna spoil really anything really, but
Also, the first Black Panther out the last time, Miguel Andor was good.
anyways, basically when they do the Marvel like title card, like it's all Chadwick, and I was just like, you could hear a pin drop in that theater, man. It was so
Yeah.
what's actually cool about that movie too is like my nieces, so I have 3, 11, they're 11, 8, and 5. One's about to be 6. And they're like getting to that age where like they're being people now with like interests, and they're not just being like all flat out annoying all the time. And my oldest niece, like she plays like a lot of softball, and like she wanted to wear like 42 as a result of like that movie. So that's just like cool. And that like being like the like a kind of a like her learning the history, things like that.
Yeah, I think 42 kind of gets like put down on the baseball resume of best movies just because it's so recent. I think in 20 years it's going to be up there in top 5.
I
That's a
think
good way to
Really
look
good
at
movie.
I think a dark horse, like one of my dark horse favorite baseball movies, and we mentioned it, is Little Big League, because that's like easily, it's not a debate. That's the best baseball acting, and it's not even close because they got a lot of like former baseball players for that movie, and they
What
got
about
like
Trouble with the Curve.
You know, that's a good call. Because like nothing pisses me off more in like movies, I feel like, is
Yeah.
these horrible. I mean, I think the
Mhm.
most famous one is what that clip of that guy playing the quarterback, right? When he's like,
That's
Right?
Wait, hold on.
I
Isn't-
hate. There's
isn't
a lot
that-
of sports movies that that shit turns me off. I can't watch it anymore. So you make a
Yeah.
good point, Justice, because that was actually well played athletically.
yeah, like there's like scenes of like them sliding into home plate. I'm like, oh, that's like actually how you would slide into home plate. Or like, and then you get like Griffey that's just like launching a ball into the Metrodome.
Hmm.
So
Not
good.
just a cutout of them like wristing it and it goes
Actually
500
them.
feet.
Right.
Now I'm trying to think of like baseball movies, because in baseball it's like it's so hard to act because it's like you can't like to get like a one shot of like someone like hitting a 90-mile-per-hour fastball, like that's you can't recreate that.
Or
Also,
you know, the
to
pitcher
come back to,
throwing
like,
90 mile an hour fastball.
To come back to like Trouble with the Curve for a second, like it's just the concept of like the overall concept of like getting like this random kid, and like we hear these stories all the time. but like this dude just like strikes out their number one prospect, and like no one was like he can't hit a curveball. And like also, can we just acknowledge the fact I don't remember what the dude's name is, but like just from an athleticism perspective, it's like you just drafted like at best a first baseman. Like, what are we doing here?
I'm just glad he didn't say his favorite movie was Summer Catch.
That's a Summer Catch. If I remember right, actually no, they have Freddie Prinze Jr. pitching.
Yep,
it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Sure do.
But I will say that
And the
movie
dude
is
that played Scooby Doo.
that movie
the-
is maybe solely responsible for me wanting to go to the Cape Cod League, and it sucks because like it's hard because it's like right in the middle of the season. But like I've always wanted to go after that movie.
I do have a weird like opinion of movies where if they have fake like NFL or MLB teams, I'm out. Like The Replacements, I enjoy it, but it like they're not real.
Yeah.
I'd have to rewatch it, but another like sneaky good baseball movie. At least it's been a while since I've seen it, but Mr. Baseball.
You're right. I like that movie.
I remember the acting in that being very good, although like I would have to rewatch it and kind of look out for the the elements of race in there and kind of see how that's portrayed. But it like I was reading about like I've read a couple of books about Japanese baseball, and like it's partially accurate to the point of like team versus the individual, things over that nature. But and then there's also the fact that like Tom Selleck like also got in the batter's box in an actual game and like held his own. I don't think he didn't get on base, but he looked like he knew what he was doing. Have y'all seen that?
No, like in a real game.
It's not like a game that counted, but it was an exhibition, and like he was suited up
like Billy Crystal did.
Suited up for the Tigers and like got in the batter's box and like was like he looks like just from like a stance perspective, he looks like someone that could hit 30. He looks the part.
Yeah. No, that's a solid movie. I haven't watched that in a while though.
It's another one of those movies where like I watch it and I'm like, I want to go to Japan one day and watch baseball out there and see how it was done.
We haven't really Rookie of the Year, another one too. No one said that.
It's a good one. Also, For the Love of the Game, I don't care what you say, I love that movie.
There are bits and pieces of that I'm a fan of. Yeah.
You're tugging on Mike Persak's heartstrings because of the Tigers.
Like it.
Yeah. We need a Pirates movie. What would a Pirates?
Chasing
Angels in
3000.
the outfield.
It would be like the new version of Major League.
Chasing 3000.
Yeah.
The original Angels in the Outfield.
Angels in the Outfield, when you think about it, it's kind of like a really depressing movie. It's like, yeah, this dude's about to die, but because of his smoking, but like he's gonna go the distance and throw like 170 pitches. Whatever.
Well, then also like, sorry, kid, I'm not gonna like you until the Angels win a pennant. Like, what a terrible dad. Just like an awful father this guy was.
So, side story about that, right? For those that know, right, Ryan and I used to be in Orchard Nine, right? So Ryan left. So every time I've asked Ryan to come back, like, hey, you gonna come back? He sends me that clip.
Another movie that I'm remembering, I don't know if y'all ever seen it. It's called Mickey. This is a baseball movie. Y'all seen it? About like the
Little League kid?
Yeah. It's like
the one that cheated?
I have not.
Yeah, like
yep.
There have been like a decent
I think
amount
that's
of,
a true story, isn't it? Or
I don't know if it's a true story, but like
or is it's like based off that one kid that was like 16 throwing in a Little League World Series.
It feels like vaguely like I feel like there could have been like some inspiration for it.
But I know what you're talking about. I've seen the movie.
What about The Scout?
I haven't seen that.
Ooh, I haven't seen that in hella long.
Yeah.
The funniest part about The Scout is that like Ozzie Smith plays for the Cardinals, but they have him like portrayed as like a slugger. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
And like I just remember that scene where like the player, like the dude Scouts, is like on the top of Yankee Stadium before the World Series, just so fucking nervous. And they have to get like a helicopter to like bring him down to the field. I'm like, what the hell is happening here?
Right.
That's
like, what if that happened in real
one
life?
we left off that I think needs mention. Hardball. You talk about the little kid.
RPG baby.
Hardball.
RPG baby.
with like a young Keanu Reeves, a young Michael B.
Yes.
Jordan, like
Like-
one of the saddest movies or scenes in
That
like
was
any
so
baseball
good.
movie. Like the Big Papa scene
Yes.
is
Mhm.
so good. It's
Nothing
so
gets
damn
you like
good.
G, baby.
All right,
And then on the kind of the same lines, you got like Bad News Bears. You know, you got those two. But
can we pretend that like the sequels to Sandlot never happened?
I mean, I never watched them, so therefore
They are
yeah, I don't think I ever watched them.
so bad. Like I think it's the third one. It's like called Sandlot Chasing Home, and like
this guy's talking about the third one. Jeez, stop.
I don't think I've watched the second one.
There basically the plot of it is like this dude's like a superstar on the Dodgers and he's kind of like an asshole, and like he's taking batting practice one day and like fireworks malfunction, he gets hit in the head with a ball, and then he like goes back in time to be with his buddies, and then like his mom is like dying or something, and it's just like this really weird plot. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what does this have to do with I think Squints is like a coach. I'm like, what are we doing here?
All I've gathered from the night is that I need to rewatch Eastbound and Down.
Eastbound and Down, great. That's excellent.
We need
You know, another one too. I'm a fan of Fever Pitch.
For sure.
Didn't we talk about that?
I don't think we did.
Is that Clint Eastwood?
No.
What's the one with Clint Eastwood?
Trouble with the Curve.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mixed those ones up.
Fever Pitch is Jimmy Fallon, Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Tyler would love that one.
Oh, it's a rom-com.
I think
Love 'em.
Justice muted himself.
He did.
Yeah, he did. I might be able to unmute him.
These old people
No.
don't know how to work this technology.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough getting old.
J-
It says
But-
your mic's not connected.
This is why I don't touch things. Although I will say his microphone is so clear.
Yeah, he definitely has the best mic, I think, out of anybody.
It's impressive.
He's got himself a Yeti. You do too, Tyler, if you get out of your truck.
Yeah, it's still in there.
You hear me now?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're back.
People would like get on me for like holding this microphone just because of like this is a microphone that needs like a stand. I'm like, y'all want to pay for like one of the ones you can like hold my hand? Like, come on, y'all. What were we saying? Yeah, the thing about Fever Pitch is that like they originally planned to like have an ending revolving around like the Red Sox losing, and then they won.
Mhm.
And so it was like, oh, we got to completely like change the way that this ends.
Yeah.
Which is like, you just like, yeah, it just happens to coincide with this major sporting event that it's like not happened in generations.
Well, I think even like part of like they were actually like in attendance for the game. So like that's part of it. Like they actually have like footage of the games and them being there. So
It's just like insane.
yeah.
I think we talked enough about baseball movies for the last half hour.
I know this turned into like a Mount Rushmore of baseball movie.
Turns into like
Yeah.
this became like Remember Some Guys.
We
and
stopped
then it
talking
became
about the
Remember Some
Pirates an
Movies.
hour ago.
I mean, I think more than an hour ago.
You hear no problems with me. I think what we should start doing is ranking those albums that are on the wall right there.
Listen, I
Well,
tried to get them
It'll
on
just be
a-
you and I, because these
We-
two have no
No, I
idea
don't
what they
do that.
even are.
Put
No,
put
I
Doggy
can't
Style
do that.
back on Spotify. I know like Snoop's trying to buy like Death Row Records, but like I want to
already
be able
bought
to
them.
listen. He what? Did he?
That's done like 8 months ago, I feel.
I don't think like
He's already got the Death Row wine out now.
There was like a whole thing about like why his stuff isn't like him and Dr. Dre. Like Chronic's not on Spotify right now, which is very disheartening. But that's
Right.
besides the point. You're not gonna get any like Taylor Swift like conversations out of me. I don't know like what lane y'all dive into, but I know that that's a big thing right now.
You have Get Rich or Die
I dive
Trying up
in many
there?
lanes, but I'm not in Taylor Swift's lane.
That's all I know.
I'm like
I'm a Swiftie.
Oh, hold on.
damn. Damn.
Yeah,
So
Jim loves him some Taylor Swift.
I know that Taylor Swift's been like getting some flack right now because of the whole thing of her producing vinyls. Because like the whole thing is like there's only so many vinyls that can be like produced at a certain time. And so like a lot of like indie artists are like, y'all are like taking up the stock. Like you don't need these. You're not about this. But it's all I see on my Instagram, my Twitter right now. It's Taylor Swift. Which
Right.
if you would have told me the middle schooler in me who was such a big Kanye fan that I would probably have more of a favorable opinion towards Taylor Swift in 2022 than Kanye. Be like, it's just odd. It's an odd turn of events.
Yeah. I'm not going to go there either right now.
Where is he gone?
I like that one. that version.
Late registration. I do miss the old Kanye, the one that was not off his rocker.
Yeah. I mean, I miss the slightly newer, older Kanye.
This man's it's like hard to like think of like artists. I mean, there's a couple, but like having like losing that much like favorable like public opinion in like a short amount of time.
I mean, forget artists, like people in general, just anybody.
It's not a fun rabbit hole to go down.
No.
Dang, we're
Nope.
we're 2 hours into this. Damn.
We are. I believe this will be a two-parter on the podcast version.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna have our Pirates version, and
We'll
then
have
hey, let's get to know Justice and talk some baseball movies.
Well, the shoot the shit version.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
I don't know rap music.
Correct.
Let's workshop real quick before we hop off.
We need to have myself, you, and Block on. We need to get Block on a show and talk some 90s hip hop.
I'm trying to think now, like, what is a good, like, introductory rap album? Because, like, there's just so many different flavors and, like, so many different routes you can go down. I'm trying to think, like, I feel like Illmatic is, like, a good one.
I don't know who that human is.
That's the Bible of rap written by Young Nas. I don't know.
So hear me out on this. I feel like I kind of want to say The Blueprint.
Anything Jay-Z is good.
Just
It's like
because
2010.
I feel like if you're introductory, like it's still new enough, it's got old flavor, it's it's got a lot of everything, and it's just nonstop hit after
Isn't
hit.
that the album that like the song about New York is on?
No. Well, that's 3. Blueprint 3.
I don't
Blueprint was 2001.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
It's literally
I don't-
9/11.
Like
Yeah.
I don't I really don't know. I don't listen to rap music. My bad.
This is
That's something to definitely debate. I feel like Illmatic might be too old. If this is the first time you're listening to rap music, you might be like, "This is old."
that is true. I was
But
like
The
thinking
Blueprint
like
might be current enough to respect all everywhere.
this is a side note, but I remember last year I was driving around James Fagan, who covers the White Sox for The Athletic, and I like picked him up from his hotel from the Coliseum one day, and I was playing Black Star, and he was like, "You are playing like my college playlist right now," and he like dubbed me like the youngest like old head that he knows.
So I'm gonna be honest with you. When you pulled out the J Dilla, I was like, okay.
Dude,
I thought you were young, which I know you're young, but I
have
wasn't
been-
expecting J Dilla.
Well, like recently, like I've been diving into like a lot of like I've been listening to so much Stevie Wonder. Like I've had like Intervisions on RP MF Doom.
Yeah.
I've had like Intervisions by Stevie on repeat. I've had Talking Book on repeat. I've had Songs in the Key of Life on repeat. Listen to a lot of Sade. Like I'm trying to get like I'm trying to culture my nieces too, because like I'm picking them up from school. And I'm like, what can I play y'all? Because I'm convinced like their generation just doesn't listen to music because they got like Instagram and TikTok and all that. So I got to culture them up. And then y'all would appreciate this, I hope. I remember I was taking them back from school one day and I played them the entirety of Freebird. And I was like I grew up playing like Guitar Hero, and like Freebird's like the song at the when you beat the campaign mode, and it's like that was my first time ever hearing. I was like, what the hell is this? And I was just like looking at them while I was playing, like just empty look. I'm like, give it a couple years. Give it a couple years.
Let me hand you this like remote guitar. You'll appreciate it.
Right.
Here's my PlayStation 2. Here's the guitar.
Yeah, I love me some 70s rock as well.
If it ain't Tom Petty, I don't care.
Tom Petty's good as hell too.
I don't think
Bob
that's
Seger.
I don't think that's a rabbit hole that I've explored that much, but I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Get down a Tom Petty rabbit hole. Get down a Bob Seger rabbit hole.
That's on my homework assignment. That's what we're gonna bring to the table next time. We're gonna bring the donuts. We're gonna bring some pierogies. We're just gonna jam that. We're gonna rank albums. That's gonna be the next time out.
NS9LIVE.
I'll
There we
eat a
go.
pierogi to rank some albums.
I'll bring
Yeah.
blueberry donuts.
We need a good
Sounds
good
like
pierogi for Donardo.
I need a pierogi too. I still gotta break that streak.
Or, well, I guess we would for the pierogi we need to. I was gonna say, or why wait? We got Bradenton coming up, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm planning on going down. So
Same. I think we all are.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I
I mean, it's only 3.5 hours for me, so
yeah, I'll definitely be there this year.
I would hope I'm down in Bradenton. I'd hope so. Bradenton was like it's an interesting place. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm a fan of like Anna Marie Island, Bradenton Beach, that area. I could
it's not far away. That's all.
I could definitely retire and snowbird there for sure.
In the same way that like I'm as a
I don't
California
know.
kid, I'm super soft and I'm not built for the snow. I'm also not built for the heat. I'm built for like 70 degrees, nothing more, nothing less. I'm soft.
Mhm.
I let that
So
be known constantly. I'm not hiding from it.
So like Pittsburgh in like July and August is just
I was
not-
going through it.
not
I was
fun.
like, I was going through it. Like those days when it would be like it would rain one day and be like 90 the next.
yeah. Ugh.
Too
It's just
short.
so muggy. It's like you're in the jungle.
Too short too. West Coast legend.
Oh, Bucko Mike's gonna get on the. He's gonna be a
Yep.
fan now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Bucko Mike
He might
DMs
follow you
me-
now.
Bucko Mike DMs me lyrics to songs he makes up. So
Me too.
They're
Easy,
like
naughty, rotten rhymer.
in the like there are a couple songs like in the Bay Area that like if you grew up here, like you just know them like the back of your hand, like Blow the Whistle by Too Short, Tell Me When to Go by 40, Thizzle Dance by Mac Dre. Like those are songs like you hear that like first note and you're like, this is home. This is different. Which again, like if y'all ever out in the Bay, like I gotta let y'all know where to go because this is my home. This is a special place.
Make that happen.
no, I was looking at the Pirates schedule next year, and I was like, one trip that would be cool would be like that Seattle, San Francisco swing. But I think I decided on LA, San Diego, that one. So
Even LA, San
do that
Diego,
next
like
year.
if you go to Koreatown in LA, you
Mhm.
get some Korean food that'll change your life.
I love Korean food too.
You could
Love it.
you could get the Korean version of a pierogi, which I don't even know what that would translate to, but I mean every
The daughter
culture
wouldn't
got
like
one.
it, so it doesn't matter.
Every culture's
Yeah.
got one.
I might. It probably made better.
You're ridiculous.
First thing I'm doing, I'm getting back is I'm going to a Penn. I'm trying to make it happen. Go to a Pens game with Alex. See what it's like to be a real Yinzer, and then have a pierogi.
There you go.
We gotta knock those boxes off.
There it is.
Have you some Beatles pizza?
Haven't had it. We gotta knock that off too.
You gotta knock.
There's a
off
lot.
cold
Y'all gotta
cheese.
give me y'all gotta give me y'all recommendations.
You
because-
gotta do the cold cheese pizza.
No, you don't.
Oh, I forgot about that. I do gotta do that.
No,
That
you
was
don't
one of
have
the
to
things-
do.
That was
you don't
one
have
of the
to do
things
that.
when I was driving.
Nah,
Like,
you
coming
gotta do
through,
it.
Like I knew that was a thing, and I completely forgot about that. So
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
un-
even know where you could get it. I've never had it.
I'm
I have no
down.
idea where you could get it.
So it's more like an Ohio Valley style pizza, but Pittsburgh kind of took it. And
No, they
Beto's is
didn't. No
yeah.
one calls that Pittsburgh style pizza. It's not a
Yeah,
thing. It's
I
really
know.
not a thing.
It's called Ohio Valley style pizza.
Yeah, it's not a
That's
thing.
Pittsburgh Clothing Company. Actually,
Yeah,
shout out.
Just because like one place has pizza
No,
that serves
wrong.
cold cheese doesn't mean
Wrong.
it's a thing. Like it
It is
doesn't.
a
It
thing.
doesn't,
No,
doesn't
it's-
belong to a region.
No, it is actually big. in
It
the
is
South.
Ohio Valley. It is a thing. It's just it's not
Like
Pittsburgh.
it's this way, like where I'm at towards Steubenville. It's big there.
It's not
Yep.
big anywhere.
This
Okay.
actually does
You
remind
don't
us.
know.
It's big there, which
I
is
It's
not.
literally live
It's
here.
really not. I'll
It
guarantee
kinda-
it's not big there.
I guarantee it is. You
I've
dummy.
never been there, but I bet it's not big there because it's
I
such a
bet you it
stupid
is.
idea.
I literally live here.
It
You
is a
live
stupid
in-
idea.
You live in Louisville, Kentucky. You know nothing about pizza.
No, that's the one food that we're not great at.
Correct. You're not good at anything. You're in Louisville. You create running quarterbacks. That's it.
Bourbon,
And number 1 draft picks.
bourbon.
Man,
There you
number
go,
32
bourbon.
overall, but
I have the one. I guess we could like this could be like a good place to like end off on is when they created like when New Era made those hats
Oh, my
about
God.
like the
God.
regional food. I don't like. I remember in the Bay it was like sushi, and I was like, I guess, but like especially for the Giants, it's like garlic fries are right there. But what was the food they put on the cap for Pittsburgh?
It was a pierogi,
It
wasn't it?
was a pierogi, but it looked like a. I don't know. It didn't really look like. It almost looked like a dumpling, which
I mean,
probably
that makes
kinda looked
sense.
like one.
Bring
But it
those
was-
hats back.
Yeah, no, they're
I feel like
they're
every new
awful hats.
is like
Bring
been
those hats
terrible.
back. I love
Yeah,
them.
new era hasn't come out with good stuff in a while.
I remember seeing one of those hats in the wild, and I wanted to ask the person to take a picture of it. I was like, "This is amazing." This is like a.
Well, did you see the new ones with like the animals? It's got like a deer on it.
I think I have. I remember seeing the
Just
one with
so
like the
bad.
holes that were in the hats, and I was like, I understand,
Bernardo's
but
all about
also,
Yeah.
but also,
R.I.P. Virgil.
R.I.P. Virgil.
All right. Well,
since we have talked about baseball in an hour and a half,
Come for the Pirates baseball. Stay for conversations about things.
we're gonna have to make some ongoing topics here. Thoughts with justice or something.
Hey, if
Yeah,
y'all
but-
bring me on, like I will just see like the happenings in my life. We'll have the book talk corner, we'll have the food corner, we'll have the rap corner. We'll just like make these.
I'll
should be
be on
lobster.
for the food part.
Yeah, it should be lobster.
I like that. I like that.
Should just do mukbangs. That's what we gotta make happen.
There it is. But anyways, let's get out of here then. It's been 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Yeah, definitely break this up into two.
Remember when Tyler's like, I got to work tomorrow? Yeah, so it's been 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Yeah.
So
I haven't
anyways,
worked in like a week. I'm just chilling.
yeah. Justice, I do really appreciate you coming on. We'll have
Appreciate
you back
y'all having
on
me.
sometime, maybe before Alex. Maybe we'll have you back on before Alex comes on again.
I gotta get some.
Before you leave, just a true story to come out here too, because I saw Alex respond say it took him 6 months to come on. I want
Wasn't
to
it 6 years?
maybe that's right, 6 years. I want to set the record straight. I don't know if you know who Noah Hiles is.
That's one of the first people I met when I came
Okay.
to Pittsburgh.
So he and Alex like did podcasts together and stuff. So when it was just Ryan and I, we were gonna have Alex and Noah come on, and we're gonna play a game. And Alex didn't make it. It was just Noah. So Alex went 0 for 1. We invite Alex on the show again. It was Tyler and I, because of course Jim didn't make it like he normally doesn't. So it was Tyler, myself, and Alex. And guess who had to leave the show because there was a free agent signing of Taylor Cahill.
It's
It was
Trevor
Trevor
Cahill.
Cahill.
Trevor
Yeah.
Cahill. So Alex went 0 for 2 right away. So I just want to let the record be known. You know, this guy just he wasn't about it. You were about it. You shot your shot. You came on within 24 hours. Just asked on, done.
Hey man, I'm trying to, I'm trying to get my candidacy up early. for that beef board of the year. I'm trying to get it up earlier.
Yeah, I need that fan
Campaign it never stops.
campaign.
Campaign it never stops.
You gotta
There's
get
no
that
slot.
lobster.
Bursak's gone.
Me and Alex gonna duke it out.
Yeah.
But no, for real, appreciate you coming on. We'll have you on again sometime soon. We'll get out of here. Bye bye.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all.
Cyber Scouts.
See you guys.